Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of a Student of the Game podcast. I'm Kevin. I'm the student, and today's teacher is going to be Chris Townsend. How you doing today?
Doing well, man.
Good. It's a pleasure to have you on. I know you have some exciting news that just dropped a few days ago. I know you're ready to talk about. So let's get started by kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're currently doing, your place in the marketplace.
Sure. Yeah, so about 3 days ago, I guess it was, I just officially sold my roofing company.
Hey, nice.
So, yeah, which is where I think we know each other from that industry. I sold it to, it's a little complicated, but a tech company and a private equity company.
Okay.
Basically, they're consolidating tech and roofing underneath this private equity firm.
Okay.
So I sold to those guys, and now I'm going to be a managing partner, chief operating officer of the combined entity.
Nice. So a lot to talk about there because that's a complex situation in itself, huh?
It is, yeah. And then I do some side consulting as well.
Nice.
Mostly just trying to help people monetize their passions.
Nice. Well, we're definitely going to dive a lot more in detail into it and pick your brain on it. I want to take a quick second and talk about this episode's sponsor. Athletic Greens is going to be one of our products that we're going to be using on this episode and this podcast. This is something that we believe in. AG1 is their product that we constantly are using throughout our lives to help us maximize our nutrients throughout the day to get in those vegetables and fruits that I don't have time to eat and don't really enjoy. I'm not really big on my veggies, but I like to be in shape. So I take one scoop every morning and I get that day rocking and rolling, and then I feel a lot better throughout the day. And that in combination with the Hydrate 15, that's a part of my day-to-day life that kind of keeps me sharp. So make sure you guys check it out, athleticgreens.com. So Chris, tell me about kind of where it all began, right? Like obviously we're going to get a lot more specific into it, but you've built a company, you've sold it, now you're taking on a new role and kind of overseeing the company that now owns that company. So there's a lot going on, and you're doing it at a pretty high level. I mean, where did this all begin? Were you always into business? Was it something that kind of stumbled?
Not really, but also yes. So at a very young age, I'll tell you my first experience with sales or entrepreneurship came, I was in Jersey at the time, so I would have been between the ages of 5 and 10. I don't know exactly how old I was, but I don't remember why or what it was. But somehow I guess I got myself into sales, and I convinced my neighbor across the street, who was another kid my age, to give me his whole life savings, which at that time was probably a couple bucks.
Right?
Yeah, right. And then I got in trouble for that and had to give it back. Yeah. But I think that was probably my first venture into sales.
So you sold him on giving it to you for what? For nothing?
I don't remember, man. It was so long
ago. Here's the thing.
I just remember getting in trouble for it.
If you had a plan, like if you were opening a lemonade stand, that's an investment.
Right.
If you didn't do nothing, that's a bully.
I don't remember what it was. I'm sure there was probably some kind of a plan to it.
Yeah.
The second time I stumbled upon it was in high school. I stumbled upon entrepreneurship. So I got bored with school. So I was a basketball player.
Okay.
Middle school, I was like state ranked in Connecticut, which I don't know if that means much, but in middle school. So I did that. Moved to St. Louis for high school.
Okay.
And switched schools up and got myself into some trouble. And then I'd always thought I was going to be, a ball player, right? And then that dream died, and I got, what do I do now with myself?
Yeah.
And I reached out to, guidance counselors, and I said, hey, I think I'm just ready to start making money. This school thing's not for me. What can I do?
This is in high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What grade are we talking?
Probably sophomore years when I first started having these conversations.
So you told your high school guidance counselor, hey, I don't know about this high school thing.
Yeah.
I don't know about this.
Yeah, I was, So I went to a prep school my freshman year. Mm-hmm. Sophomore year, I went to the public school.
Okay.
And it was basically a repeat of my freshman year at the private school.
Yeah.
And it was really boring. I was kind of making fun of my teachers. I remember
it's because the private school was kind of ahead.
Way ahead.
So coming to the next grade, you were kind of going backwards.
Exactly.
Okay, I got you.
And the education I'd gotten my freshman year allowed me to play games with the minds of the sophomore teachers.
Yeah.
Right, because I knew more about the material than they did based on what I had been taught.
And it was fresh information.
It was.
Yeah,
right.
I'm with you.
Yeah, and I was a smart ass kid. So, can I say that on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, you're good, man.
Right.
Yeah.
So I did that. Things got ugly because I went to this school. I was starting on the basketball team. Got into football.
Okay.
I was doing, getting some attention from the girls now.
Yep.
All the guys that grew up with those girls, all the guys that grew up on the team, they didn't like that so much.
Yeah.
Got into some scuffles.
Especially the new kid coming in our school. Yeah,
didn't like it.
Yeah.
Didn't like it. So I got into some scuffles and things like that. It was St. Louis is a rough town.
Okay.
One thing led to another. I started smoking some pot.
Okay.
And I got kicked out of that school.
Okay.
Not for the pot, just because.
Same year. We're still in sophomore year.
This was. No, it was at the beginning of my junior year
Okay.
at this point.
Okay.
So I got kicked out of there, and they sent me to this last chance school for the city.
Okay.
And, you go to a school like that, I mean, you're talking kids that have been in jail. They're girls pulling their hair out in the middle of class, like kids that have serious problems. Mm-hmm. And I was very well adjusted comparatively. And so it let me get away with murder because, I was the good kid all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm there for a week maybe, and someone says, hey, can you get some weed? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And all of a sudden I did the math in my head, and within 2 weeks I was selling pounds of this stuff.
Making profit. Okay.
Yeah, and then smoking my profit.
Yeah.
And then, because I was never really in it for the business. It was just it was that entrepreneurial spirit manifesting naturally.
It was the mentality of, if I just sell it to you, I can get it for free.
That's what it was. That's what it started with. And then I found out I was pretty good at sales and pretty good at this and that. And so that was my first stint with it. That kind of blew up and got crazy for a couple of years. Ended up doing 5 different high schools, graduated a semester late, kicked out of at least 2 of them. I thought I dropped out. My parents educated me later on that it wasn't my choice, that the schools asked me not to return.
Yeah.
I don't think I found that out till I was in my late 20s, that wasn't my choice.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my first stint with the
So let me ask this,
world.
right? Because we're obviously going to get a lot more in depth with the success you've created, but with having the rough high school run, did you end up going back? Did you get a GED? I mean, where are you at now?
Yeah, so I went and I went back to that public high school, and I just finished out. So they had me when I got kicked out of the last chance school. I did correspondence courses, which is I'm aging myself here, but that's the equivalent of an online education.
Yeah.
But I actually mailed my stuff back and forth through Columbia. I think it was through Mizzou or some college that had a high school prep thing too. So I did that, and then I went back and I did one last semester. So I only graduated a semester late.
Okay.
And then they asked me, they said, hey, where do you want to go to college? And I'm like, I'm a drug addict. I'm a drug dealer. Mm-hmm. I've been kicked out of schools or quit, or a dropout is how I looked at myself.
Yeah.
I'm not getting into college. But one of my buddies that I had been running with, his parents kind of got him on a slightly straighter path, and they got him into school, and he went to TCU.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, I'll go to TCU then.
Well, let me ask you, at that time, right, is it that you didn't think you were going to get into school, or is it that you didn't want to go to school?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no desire to go to school.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you ended up going.
I did, yeah. So TCU was the only school I applied to.
What kind of pushed you into that decision? What made you go, I'm going to do it? Okay.
I didn't want to. Well, there were 2 things. One is my parents kind of told me, no, you're going to school.
Okay.
And I was like, if you pay for it, I'll go. But I'm not taking on debt to do this.
Yeah.
And then I went and visited my buddy. So right, that my 5th year, senior year, that second semester in the spring, I went to a community college to just kind of catch up and knock out some classes locally in St. Louis. And I went and visited my buddy down at TCU.
And you just kind of liked it, or what?
Yeah, I mean, the male-female ratio at TCU was
TCU,
crazy.
TCU
bro.
is different,
and
man.
that was like 15 years ago. Dallas and Fort Worth have changed now, but back then it was like,
But even still,
it was crazy. And
TCU is crazy.
You know, I'm like used to St. Louis, and I go down here and I'm seeing all these rich, pretty girls, and I was like, okay. I was like, all right, I can mess with this. My friend he was a year ahead of me now. So, yeah, I'm like, okay, I come down here, I'm made man already.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was the only school I applied to. I got in, and it went down. So I did 4 years there, got a double degree.
Okay.
I started as a dual degree in business and philosophy. Mm-hmm. And my brain was having a hard time at that age shifting from like, what's the meaning of life to accounting?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'm not going to make any money in philosophy, so I'm going to do business. And then I ended up doing supply chain management and business information systems.
Okay. So let me first ask this, right? I want to take a pause and ask a couple questions. So the first question I have is, what do your parents do? What did they do at that time?
So my parents, when I was born, were in theater, actually.
Okay.
And in New York City. My dad ended up going from being an actor to a producer.
Okay.
But really, it was my mom's career.
Okay.
So she was a woman in New York City in the 80s. She started as a secretary, worked her way up to an executive level.
Yeah.
So like we were broke when I was young, and then by the time we were in high school, we were upper middle class.
Yeah, and more importantly, because she had the experience of climbing the socioeconomic ladder in the toughest market there is, she had a real strong understanding of what it took to win.
Yeah.
So the question I kind of follow up with that was your parents seemed like they were very steadfast in making sure you made decisions that you probably didn't see at that time.
Uh-huh.
And in hindsight, I'm sure you appreciate it. How important was it that they had that stability in their way of thinking to get you to where you are now?
So there's no denying the education from being around them growing up.
Yeah.
And just seeing that day in and day out, right? Like my dad, he's in his 70s now. He's retired. The dude can't stop working.
Yeah.
Right? So seeing that work ethic in them undoubtedly had a role. As far as their maybe rules or whatever, like, hey, you need to go to college. I needed that from a maturity standpoint more than an education standpoint.
Yeah.
Right? Like I needed that transition from being, this thugged out drug dealer to, I went to TCU where that wasn't cool. I rolled into TCU wearing, this is the early 2000s, wearing like velour track pants and like a turtleneck with a chain on the outside, right?
Yeah.
And I'm in one of the pretty boy fraternities, and they're like, dude, you can't.
Yeah, that's not cool.
No, polo and shorts, right? So
Sperry's, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So just kind of it changed my my worldview a little bit, and I needed that to transition out of it.
Yeah. So it is just crazy because where you are and the group you're associating with, it naturally affects how you move and how you dress 100%. And how you speak. And it's weird because people are so reluctant of it, right? They're like, oh, I'm not one of the... But it's natural. Like if you literally spend enough time with a group of people, you're going to accidentally pick up a lot of mannerisms, right? Like if you hang out with someone every single day, there's going to be a lot of lines and things that they say that you're going to say. You're just going to catch it, right? Like I did weird enough, I did a boot camp last week with our supplement team, and I've got this saying that I don't even say on purpose, but I started to catch it, and I go, you know what I mean? I do it a lot, right? I'll be like, hey, so here's what we're going to do, and then we're going to do it this way, you know what I mean? And I just do that you're not even intentional. And then we were, grabbing some food, and she was like, I was talking to my husband tonight, and I hit him with a, you know what I mean? And he was like, why'd you say that? And she's like, I don't know why I said that. And it's just you're with someone, and you're with this group, and you start to kind of associate that way, and then your mind, especially at a young age, it's so pliable that you hang out with groups, and then all of a sudden you realize, I'm not saying I'm trying to dress like you, but we dress very similar, or we speak very similar, and that's so critical in your development and understanding the circle you want to be in.
Yeah.
So you're in college, you're in TCU, you've got a business degree. Where does that take you?
So I graduated in 2008. One of my college professors hired me to write graduate level textbooks for supply chain management right out of school.
Okay.
And then it was '08, and I got laid off like 6 months later when the market crashed. So interestingly enough, I was too prideful in high school. I prided myself on the fact that I'd like walk the mall and sell bags to kids, and I'd take their whole paycheck in minutes.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, man, like you're a sucker. You work for what, $8 an hour, probably like $6 at the time.
Yeah.
And I go and I get so. Interestingly enough, I get laid off. TCU has a career fair 2 days later. So I remember this was back when Ghost Bar was open at the W, and I was at Ghost Bar. We had bottle service and everything. I was partying hard. I get back home to Fort Worth on Sunday morning, and I get the call from my boss saying, "Hey, I'm gonna pay you out for the next month, and then
and then we're done."
Yeah. And then Wednesday, so that was Sunday. Wednesday, there was a career fair at TCU, and I ran into these two people from the Buckle there, the clothing store, and one of them pulled out. You ever seen Boiler Room?
Mm-mm.
Oh man, bro! If you're into sales, you have to see Boiler Room.
I haven't seen that.
It's like the pre-Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay,
it's so much better.
When was this made?
'99. It's got like Vin Diesel and Ben Affleck.
Long time ago.
Yeah, but
right,
man, it's so good.
Okay.
It's so good. So, but anyway, there's a scene in there where Ben Affleck like throws his Ferrari keys out on the table as like a sales pitch to the guys. This guy does that with me. He pulls out his 7 Series keys and he's like, said, "You can make that kind of money working at the Buckle at the mall?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, you can." I said, "Okay, I'll come work with you guys then."
Okay.
So I started in sales. So where I'd been too prideful to work at the mall in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am, fresh out of college with my 4-year double degree or whatever, and I'm working for $9 an hour. I was making less money there than I made in my internship in college.
Was there commission or no commission?
Commission, but you kind of it was 3% of revenue, which they want you selling $100 to $200 an hour, so you're $6 if you're good.
Yeah.
So you're at $14 an hour, which was I was at 15 as a junior intern at Alcon. So it's like it was humbling, right? And I'm working. I had been working 15 hours. I was writing these books from the pool every day. 4 months before and making. At the time was a lot of money. Yeah. And
now you're in the mall working full shifts.
Yeah, 14-hour day, hard days. I have back problems from sports and stuff. So, I'd get home every night and I'm like, I got to take a bath. Yeah. Every night. Get home from a shift. I got to take a bath.
It is, you said it, it's a humbling experience.
Oh, changed my life. Yeah. I needed it. Because I had no work ethic. I was too smart for my own good. Yeah. And I was too prideful for my own good.
So, and I appreciate you saying that because I think we've all kind of been there.
Yeah.
What's processing in your mind at that time, right? Because you said it's a life-changing thing. And I think, for me in particular, I had a very humbling experience with a position, and it is life-changing. It changes your entire outlook on your life, on how you operate, how you move, the amount of work you put in, what it takes to get what you want, what it takes to win. But in that particular moment, a lot of it seems like, this sucks, woe is me. And, so how are you processing that? Like, what is going through your mind at that time?
Exactly what you just pissed, angry, fed up, entitled. Yeah. I mean, I'm just like, this sucks. I'm not getting anything out of this. Where's my – because I was working up to be a general manager, and that's where you make the money. As a salesperson, you don't make scraps. Yeah. And so I'm angry. There was a time – I remember one time I got so pissed. I used to have really bad anger issues too. But I'm in the mall, and my boss comes to me, and I'm trying to get my store, and I'm thinking, they sell you, right? Yeah, it's the carrot. Yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, 6-9 months in, I'm going to get a store. And I'm a year and a half in at this point, and I get passed up for another store. I went in the food court, and I started throwing chairs and tables. Bro.
Yeah, When you found out that they were giving it to someone else?
Yeah, because I'm like, man, I'm top sales, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I ran the store when my boss was...
Did they... And I'm only saying because I've been in a similar experience. Did they tell you why someone was being selected over you?
Not really. It was more of a honestly, truth be told, there's some preferential treatment there. Yeah. In
hindsight, now, do you still think the same thing? You think it was still a biased decision?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
But again, life can throw shit at you, and you get to decide how you deal with it.
Yeah, you got to learn how to respond.
And frankly, like, I'm the kind of guy I'm competitive as hell. I'm gonna kick and scream through pain. I'm gonna be a little punk about it.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, I'm gonna learn from it.
Yeah.
And I wish I had a good attitude about stuff.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm a great winner and a terrible loser. Terrible loser.
Yeah, no, it's dope that you can admit it, though. At least you know.
Yeah. No, I mean, since I was a kid, basketball, man, we win, I'm humble.
Yeah.
When I win, I'm like, hey, good game, man.
Good game,
I lose, I'm throwing, punches at the bleachers.
Yeah.
So that, anyway, that was kind of the experience there. Eventually, I did get my own store.
Okay.
And they sent me out to Cedar Hill, which was like a lower end marker. Yeah, low volume, lower average sale. The store was going back 25%.
Demographics not as high in terms of income.
It's not. And so, we're competing with stores like South Lake and North Park, which the area.
Yeah. Well, you got what we call like a starter location.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. And I started off, things were really rough at first. We were going backwards that same 25%. I hired on probably in June until December, and it was rough. And then in December, it just started clicking, and then we grew 25%. So we went from like I think the highest the store had done was about 1.7 million, and I got it up to about 2.1. Okay. We had the highest average sale in the district, 36 store district. Maybe it was the second highest. It was either the highest or second highest. So like,
what are some key changes that you made to get that up?
Personnel.
Yeah,
it was all personnel. It's just about having the right team, man. It wasn't even me.
And at this time, you were how old?
25.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
So I was 25 at that point.
Okay, so then you obviously, are starting to learn the ins and outs of operating. You're starting to learn, what it takes to take locations and kind of make them more profitable. And a lot of times in those particular situations when you're working for corporations, you don't really, now we know to speak margins and profit, right? But at the time, you're just talking, we're doing better, performance, right? You don't really know and understand the key point indicators as well as you do now.
I mean, I was always cheap, so this is a funny story about when I was a kid. I remember, my parents would put me to work on chores and stuff, and I remember I was probably 7 at the time. This was in Jersey as well, and I saved up. I remember it was $120 for this thing. It was Dino Riders. It's like this big dinosaur that they'd have people, turn them into like, elephants they ride, right?
Okay.
And then put guns on them and stuff. So it was, it was a big toy in the 80s, or maybe early 90s, and so. I bought this thing and I got it and I was just like, I just worked so hard for this thing.
To give us perspective, right? Like, how much are you making for these chores?
Oh, I mean, it was like cents and dollars.
So it took a lot to get $120.
Oh yeah, it's not like they were giving me $5 to clean the bathroom.
See, that's what I was thinking.
No.
Is it like clean the living room? I'll give you $10.
No, my parents weren't like. Nah, they were cheap.
So that $120 took a long time.
That was a lot of sweat equity.
Yeah,
and I got it, and I was like, I can't believe I just blew my money on this. And I became so cheap. Like when I was selling drugs, I don't even know how much money I made doing that, but I was still going. I was in the McDonald's. Drive-through grabbing the dollar menu.
Yeah.
I had $3,000 in my pocket and I'm eating
just
the dollar
frugal.
menu.
Yeah.
Cheap.
Because you learned that you could blow it all on something that isn't as good as you thought it was.
Right. No, I was cheap, man. Frugal has too positive of a connotation. I was cheap. Okay. And so like I was like that as a boss too, where I was watching my payroll. Because I knew they paid me. I got my base salary, which was whatever, probably something trash. I don't remember, like $40,000 a year, and then they gave me like 10% of the net profit of the store.
Yeah, so you were trying to keep your expenses as low as possible.
So I was aware of that, but they didn't let me see the books. Right? It was just, hey, keep your payroll low, keep your loss low. Don't let people. That was another thing. Cedar Hill, big loss, right? A lot of stealing, a lot of theft.
Yeah.
A lot of it was internal too.
Yeah.
So I cut that down, and so my second full year, we got up to the 2.1 million, had like the highest average sale. Our loss prevention was way down. I fired like 3 or 4 people that were stealing from us. I had an amazing team. I recruited all these Christian kids from like CF&I. I don't know if you know CF&I and SAGU, and they were hard workers. I didn't have to worry about them coming into work drunk,
Yeah.
like all this, and they just killed it. So a lot of those guys are still lifelong friends.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So where does that
married
take
one
you?
of them, actually.
Oh, well, yeah. Nice. Yeah, you pulled good. So you're doing well, right? What does that take you? You're still moving up? You get out?
I was moving up, and so that's actually stuff got crazy then, because I'd been an atheist or an agnostic my whole life, and I ended up dating my assistant manager, who was like a pastor's kid, and I ended up like going through a religious transition.
Okay.
And I ended up quitting that job to go to Bible school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, man, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. So what's your wife's name?
Well, we're divorced now.
What was her name?
Maranatha,
Maranatha.
which is Aramaic. It's from the Bible, which means Lord, come quickly.
So not to, shout out to that, though, because that's an awesome experience.
Yeah.
I think anyone who
It
can...
changed my life.
That's completely life-changing.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so then what? So you quit the job to go to Bible study.
Yeah.
We're talking about like a trip. You go, or you're going, or you're just like going, literally physically just
No, I
leaving
went to
your house?
CF&I for almost, I think I went for a year to CF&I.
Okay.
So it's a little Bible college in South Dallas.
Okay.
In Oak Cliff. And so what happened, like I talked about it with my then wife, like my newlywed wife, and I had a little bit of savings, and we decided we were going to live off of her working there. She kept working there, and then my savings.
Okay.
And I had a Cadillac. I sold my Cadillac. She got in a car accident. She didn't have a car. I bought us 2 Kias. Like I stepped back.
You literally changed your entire life for that.
Everything.
Wow.
Everything.
So the first thing I want to acknowledge before we even go past that is how much it took to make that commitment.
Well, there were nothing. Well, it took a lot. I have a pretty strong willpower.
Yeah.
It was hard to do, not at first, but like that was a 7-year, for about 6 or 7 years we lived off $40,000 combined, which is,
Yeah.
I like nice stuff.
Yeah.
That's low money for 2 people. So, and we were fine, never in debt. I managed the finances. That frugal nature sure
very
kicked
tight.
in.
Yeah.
So, she was super supportive, amazing woman, and we're still really good. We're still friends, by the way. I can touch on that more later if we want. But I went to CF&I. It's like a spirit-filled kind of thing, very Pentecostal.
Yeah.
I'm not Mr. Charismatic, I'll just say it that way.
Yeah.
And so I'm more on the intellectual side.
Yeah.
I didn't fit in so well, so I ended up dropping out of that and going to Liberty to get my master's.
Okay.
I did online, and I wrote a couple books. And so that was in 2012 I started, left there spring of 2013, started Liberty, and by December of 2013 I was actually teaching at CF&I, one of the books I had written.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a fast transition.
I move hard, man.
I see that. So, man, that's a full circle situation, though.
It is.
So now you've obviously written the books. You're in school to get your master's degree in business, I assume.
No, in theology.
Okay, so you went back, and then you're teaching lectures regarding the book, and you're still with the same lady at the time.
I am.
And she's supporting the whole thing.
Amazing. Yep.
That's incredible.
Yep.
Okay, so where does it go from there?
So I ended up writing a couple more books. I taught 3 different courses there. I taught apologetics, which is basically like philosophy of belief. I taught business, and I taught ethics.
Okay.
And actually there was a 4th one I forgot too. I wrote a book on the history of the church and like cultural influence, social engineering, things like that, how we're impacted by media and stuff like that.
The contents itself, or the effects of the content?
Both.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it kind of goes hand in hand. So it's not just the happening, but it's how we're affected by the happening as well.
And then how that's like a cyclical. It produces in and out. So
like a paradox,
it just like, what goes in goes back out, and then what goes out impacts what goes into other kids, so on and
it's
so
a paradox.
forth. So so I taught a lot about that, and then I did that for several more years, and eventually we got to a place where, her career wasn't really going anywhere. She stuck in the retail world a little bit.
At the time you're in the transition to where you're going, but at the time where you stopped, where you're doing these courses, is she still at Buckle?
No, she was no, but maybe at the very beginning. But then she went over to Wet Seal across the street, and then she ended up working for Apple, where she still works now.
Okay.
And then, it was good. I was teaching. I was kind of itinerant, teaching at churches. I was doing different stuff, but it just wasn't. It didn't pay the bills, right? Yeah. Everyone in the church world wanted it for free.
Yeah.
I mean, the school paid me to teach the classes, but I was adjunct, so you got no health care. I mean, we were broke, right?
Yeah.
And
that adds a lot of stress in life.
Oh, so much stress. And I was already dealing with like the transition from atheistic player to super devoted, good boy husband.
Yeah.
Which I did a good job with that from an action standpoint, but it was just a lot of stress.
Yeah, I mean, the internal process that you have to go through to make such a drastic change in how you approach life, I think is so difficult to ascertain. And then more importantly, I think when you combine that with the innate mentality of a competitive guy who has this mindset of, I don't really need to tell anyone I'm going through a lot. Like,
right.
Competitive men.
I'll handle it myself.
Yeah, because it's like, I've got this, right? That's that voice in our head, especially competitive men more than anything. Mm-hmm. I got this. And even though you may not, especially because we're talking about two completely different lives. Like, we're talking about flip of a coin, the opposite side that you went through in a very short period of time while dealing with the financial, situation of being so tight. And, in combination to life change, we've got a wife that's conducive to the new life you're still trying to transition. So it's a lot going on, and that does create a lot of internal stress.
It does. And then having to be a leader in that community as a baby, wanting to be a leader in that community because it's part of my nature. It's like I just got to lead. And it was very hard to, uphold that. Because for me, I can't be fake. I can't pretend to be one way on the outside and be different on the inside. Yeah. So if I'm acting like one thing in public, it's only going to be if that's how I'm going to be real with them. Yeah. Right. So I told my students what I struggled with. I told them about my sin and my failures and all this stuff, because that's just I don't like to hide stuff like that. Yeah, I get it. So. But then to carry the crown the crown of leading in that capacity is tough, man. Yeah. So anyway, I did that. Getting onto the business side of things, a buddy of mine reaches out and he's like, this roofing thing's really hot.
What year are we in at this point?
Probably end of 2016. Okay. And he's like, come do this roofing thing with me. I want you to help me build a canvassing team.
Well, at this time, how credible is this buddy? How well do you know each other?
We knew each other from CF&I. He was a sales guy who'd been doing roofing sales for 6 months. Okay. And the industry, that someone who's been in the industry selling for 6 months
doesn't know enough.
Nothing. Yeah. Well, and with the way most of the companies are run in DFW, like it's just chop shop. Yeah. So so I go to start working for this buddy of mine just as like a 1099 to a 1099, and I'm supposed to start on a Monday, and he called. I'm like, hey, man, where are we at? I'm trying to get to work. And he goes, well, the owner of the company wants to talk to you before you work for us. I'm like, oh, man, come on, man. I need money, right? Yeah. And I was working. I worked myself into health issues. I wrote like 5 or 6 books. I wrote hundreds of articles. I was working. I created, I don't even know, 5 courses, like full-blown courses. I was just prolific on content. I did the whole web. I learned WordPress. I learned, all these softwares. I did it all myself because we didn't have money to hire anybody. And so I was having serious health issues at the time too, and I needed money for hospital bills and stuff. Yeah. So anyway, I go to meet with the owner, and I sit down with him. He took me to Jimmy John's out in Waxahachie, and I sit down with him, and he's like, well, why don't you come do this for my whole company? And they were doing about $10 million at the time. They had 35 sales guys. He's like, come build a canvassing team for my whole company. And I was like, yeah, all right.
So initially the conversation was that you were just going to do it for that dude who was a part of that company, probably running a little unit, and then owner gets wind of it and pulls you in to do it for a larger scale. Right. Okay, gotcha.
So I'm in. I recruit like 5 cats the first week. And I start talking to the owner. I'm like, all right, cool. How do you want me to track the leads, right? And he goes, Excel. said, man.
Wait, tell me. They were doing $10 million and didn't have a CRM?
No CRM.
Wait, this is 26. This is modern day.
I mean, bro, they didn't have a voicemail set up. But you know the industry, right?
Yeah. I mean, I know there's a lot of guys like that, but they ain't doing $10 million.
I mean, they had 35 dudes running around. It was all on paper.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
old school. Yeah.
Well, they did have iPads to sign contracts, but that was the only thing. And they had a little 5-slide presentation on an iPad. That was the only tech they had at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, look, man, you need systems.
Yeah.
You know, pay me to be your director of operations. Let me come in. Let me set up some software for you. Let me look into this stuff. So
how long into this did you?
2 weeks.
Okay.
I mean, it was right away. I said I can't do this until we do that.
Yeah.
And so he did. He's like, okay, cool. I'll give you a little base and whatever, and then you can do both. You do it all.
Yeah.
So he had a business partner. I start talking more to the business partner. The main owner's brother dies.
Mm-hmm.
He disappears for 3 months, and I'm working with the other partner that whole 3 months. We're coming up with comp structures, everything you can think of.
You revamp the entire business.
Yeah, we're looking at different CRMs, and I get this call probably it had to have been in the early spring, but I get a call from the majority owner, and he's like, hey, and by the way, at this time I've convinced 3 guys that I was personally friends with to quit their $60,000 to $70,000 a year careers to come on. And he gives me this call, and he's like, hey, the other owner is doing a hostile takeover. He's going to take a bunch of people and leave. And I'm like, man, I talk to this guy every day. He would have cut me in on that or no way.
Yeah.
And I find out within a week.
That it was the case.
It was the case. So he ran off with 75% of the sales staff and half the office staff.
To go create his own company.
Yeah. He had a home building company before that, and so they just went under that umbrella.
Yeah.
And so then the owner's like, hey, look, you can keep helping me with the systems, but I need sales. And because he had bought an office space and all this stuff that he had a mortgage on.
Mm-hmm.
He had a bunch of rental properties he had dumped money into, so he was overextended.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, so this is probably May of 2017, and I grab this kid who I pulled him from CF&I. He was still going there at the time, and I'm like, hey man, we're just gonna go knock. Right, so we got one house, and then my competitive nature took over, and we were in this little neighborhood in Duncanville, and we had 35 houses within a couple months, you know.
Yeah.
And so I just took over that neighborhood. I made a good amount of money. Fall rolls around, you know what happens in the industry.
Yep.
Things slow down. I didn't slow down, but everyone else did.
Yeah.
Right, not my team, but all the couple of people he had left, it slowed down. So he's like, no joke. I upgraded. I went from my Kia to I did a 3-year lease on a Lexus RX 350 F Sport fully loaded, but I'm careful with the money, right?
Yeah,
so I paid off the whole lease up front.
Yeah.
I did a 1-pay lease. The next day he calls me and he's like, "Hey, I'm cutting your pay. No more base." And I'm like, okay, I mean, I'll survive. I'd been counting on that money.
Yeah.
So he does that, and I'm like, all right, whatever. So I just keep true.
Well, let me ask, at that time, so he's cutting it. Is he cutting it because they're not doing well?
I think he's cutting it because they're not doing well, and because my commissions were picking up. So he assumed I'd be fine.
Yeah, which is such a stupid. And now, if your guys are doing well, especially in the industry
my
of
team
sales,
was the only one left.
You don't reduce them.
Right.
But the rookie mistake of owning sales organizations is this guy's making so much money. Let me slow him down. He'll be all right. And
right.
it makes sense when you don't really understand business and leadership. You think oh, okay, this guy's killing it. He's gonna be good. You never do that.
Right.
Never ever do that.
And I was loyal and I appreciated him giving me the start.
Well, how long, where you are in this story, how long has it been since partner B ran off?
6 months.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
6 months. And I think legitimately, you know, I'm still cool with this guy actually, but he was never good at managing people. I'll just say
partner
that.
A or partner B?
The main guy.
Okay.
He was never good at managing people, right? He's a good dude overall, but had some shortcomings there. Yeah. And so he does this, and I'm like, man, you know, all right, but I'm loyal, so I stick around. And one of my guys that I had pulled in gets in a car accident, breaks his kneecap, can't do it anymore. Can't knock, can't climb. He's out. And I never liked climbing roofs, man. So I had my other buddy who I basically gave him half my commission to be my climber.
Yeah.
And he was my buddy, right?
You were the mouthpiece and he was the legs.
Yeah. And so like I enjoyed hanging out with him. It was a cool thing. Like we'd work the morning, we'd go back to my crib, play some Halo or something, then go hit it at night again. Yeah. You know, and it was a fun life for a while. So we did that, then the winter rolls around and I get a call from the office manager and they're like, "Hey, you cut your pay again." Like, he didn't even tell me that time that he was cutting my pay. The office told me.
He told her to tell you that? She just told you because she felt you needed to know.
Yeah.
And he had no intention on telling you?
I guess not. So, I don't know. You know, that's speculation.
Yeah.
I try and give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, it was like, hey, you know, your paycheck's changing this week. And I've been getting courted by a couple other roofing companies as that happens, right? And I was finally like, all right, I'm going to have one of these conversations now. Because, like, one time, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
I empathize with your situation. Yeah. But, like, you just cut my legs out from underneath me again. And, like, I'm all you got left. So I did that and ended up going to work for these two other guys at another roofing company. And they were... Now, these guys were different, okay? So they were actually, like, good salespeople. They actually understood construction. Like, they owned an installation company. So they understood, like, high-end installation. They actually gave me training on... Because at this point, man, I barely know what drip edge is. Right? I've been selling it for a year.
Yeah, you're just slinging, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they actually educate me on the construction side. And I'm like, okay, cool. They educate me on, hey, here's how you tell if... Case in point, right? That first guy, I found a 40-year shingle, and I said, "What's the equivalent to this in the new shingles?" And he said an HD. You know, that's not accurate, right? Yeah. These guys start actually educating me on this stuff. Here's how you use a shingle.
I was just about to say, show you what a shingle gauge is.
Like they show me this stuff, and so I actually build. Now they actually let me really build stuff. So I hook up with Job Nimbus, which I'd been trying to do with this other guy first, but they didn't want to mess with it. So like I get Job Nimbus, I start building that stuff out. We get a sales team going. Everything's going pretty well. I pull in my boy who's like crazy salesperson, train him up. Everything's going pretty well, and those two partners split.
How long into it?
A year. Yeah. So I started with them in probably January or February of 2018. Yeah. And they split in December. It's kind of like
another one. Yeah.
Another one.
Again, yeah.
But now, like, these are higher, like, functioning individuals.
Yeah, higher caliber.
Yeah, they both. I don't want to say that because I don't want to speak ill.
Yeah, you don't want to diminish the other.
I know, but that was the word.
Hey, man, there's levels to this.
Sure.
Man.
So, and you know, he's got his skill set. These guys have theirs. But they said, they both wanted me to come work for them, and they both. There was discussion of ownership. One of them said, "I'll make you a 49-51 partner," and I was like, "Okay. Let's do this." Yeah. And that's where Bearder Brothers started.
Okay, so when was this?
This was December of 2018.
So the first question I have to ask is when the divorce happens, how tough is it to choose between mom and dad?
You're talking about the
these two partners.
Well, it ended up not being very hard. So the other guy who actually is the one who had pulled me into their company, he unintentionally disrespected me. So he asked me to build his company for him, and I'm like, cool, I'll do that. And I'll do it. I was 100% commission with these guys too, but I don't mind that because like I'll earn, right? And so I won't go into all the details, but I said, I'll earn. I'm not afraid of that. But I need to know there's security down the road.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to build for perpetuity, I need to have some security that it's going to be there.
For sure.
Otherwise, because I've had this happen so much in consulting where I'll do like a value-added contract where I'm like, I'll take the money long term.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take anything up front, but I want a piece.
Yeah.
And I'm going to build your stuff for you. And then I build it, and they're like, well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just built everything for you.
Yeah, I constructed, yeah.
Yeah, and then they kick me out, and I walk away with nothing.
Yeah.
So he basically treated me like an employee, and he's like, you're worth about $80,000 a year salary, and I was like, I don't care about a salary, but I'll tell you, I'm worth a lot more than $80,000.
Yeah, especially if you're prioritizing the long term.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to build the company that, like, if I'm going to build your company.
Well, the problem, and obviously in hindsight, but the main problem is when your job is to get the plane off the ground. They forget how important it was when they're in the air.
Exactly.
Because now you're just on the plane, and they're like, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
The value that they see, and again, everything changes in your level of leadership, right? Like great leaders, they understand the investment, and they understand the work, and they understand that roles will change, and they understand that you may not be used as much today than you were yesterday, but you're equally as valuable because you're the reason we made it to today. That's great leadership. Now, not to diminish people, but there are levels to this. There's levels to everything. And when you're just not at that level of understanding, you get on the plane and it's flying, and then they go, you're not doing jack. But you're like, dude, this thing is only in the air because of me.
Right.
So I get exactly what you're saying, is it's kind of like it wasn't intentionally malice.
No.
But it was like you didn't see it. You didn't see what I did to get us here.
Exactly. And it wasn't malice. It wasn't at all. It wasn't meant to be disrespectful, but it was, in my opinion, it was an underestimation of the value I was bringing.
100%.
So when I had option A and option B, I went with option A. Yeah. And I'm glad I did.
And weird enough for him to go, well, man, I got a lot of questions, right? The first question I have is, right, he does a essentially what it is we're going into this as equal partners, but I need that 1% for decision making. I mean, I think most people in business understand 50-50 partnerships don't really work.
Yeah.
You have to have someone who has a final decision. Even though we have equal respect, like if we can't disagree on something, someone has to be the decision maker.
Well, and I'd never run a business before.
Yeah.
Like my own. I had run like a small consulting deal, but I had never owned responsible for everything.
Yeah, so to me it makes sense. The question I have is, and hopefully it doesn't put you in a position where you got to badmouth anyone, but why would he leave one marriage to go get married to the kid of the marriage?
According to him, and this was between those two, right? The other dude had stopped working. He just wasn't working as much as he should have, and he told him, "Hey, if this doesn't change,
I'm out." Yeah.
And he warned me about that about 4 months or so before that happened. This is my current-ish business partner.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. And so he did that and let me know what was going to happen, and then it happened. And so I went off with him, and we started as 4951. I was very uncomfortable because I'm risk averse too, right? I'm cheap and I'm risk averse, so I was very uncomfortable starting a company because it was my first one, right? The idea of other people having access to my money, I mean, you know how that goes. Like, there's so many people that are making decisions with your money in your name every day.
Yeah,
that's a scary thing.
Yeah,
and I didn't know the finance side. I didn't know what it took. I didn't know the legal side. I didn't really know the construction side. I knew it better than a lot of business owners at this point, but not enough that I would feel
comfortable. Yeah, to feel 100% comfortable.
I wouldn't put my name on it at that point.
So, and that kind of is the pyramid I want to begin in these questions is how, and you're kind of getting at it, but how tough is that, right? Like, for me, when I started my first business, I was in a very similar situation, but there wasn't much fear because I knew enough. But I knew enough because I had planned to do it. So I had some time to go, here's what I need to know, here's what I need to do, here's what I need to gather. And I had the privilege to sit down I took probably 4 months. I had a bunch of money saved up, and I took about 4 months to just maybe like 3 months, but a good amount of time where I didn't work. And all I did was plan. I mean, I planned everything. I'm talking about I planned documents, contracts. I was ready to go.
Yeah.
And I had the luxury to be able to do that not everyone has. A lot of times people got to jump out the plane before they have the parachute.
Right.
So at that time, being a first-time business owner, I mean, what was kind of crossing your mind? How afraid was it? How scared was it?
Yeah, I mean, I was scared out of my mind in a lot of ways. I was also excited. I think the fact that I had a business partner who had done it before was, it was comforting.
Yeah.
In hindsight, and he'd probably he's gonna watch this. He'll acknowledge it. Like, he's a spender,
Yeah.
right? Like, we joke about it. I'm the no guy, he's the yes guy,
Yeah.
right? And I think at the beginning, it was actually probably harder for me because of our partnership in some ways, because of that. Now, he's also an earner, so that offsets it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
but a spender is a spender.
It is, and to and he's not. He's a very he'd never spend without my agreement.
Yeah. Communications.
He wasn't like, it's not like he was going off and racking up money on stupid shit and not checking. It wasn't like that, but it was like, hey, I want to spend money on this. And
so while you're on that, I want to ask a very direct question that is industry related. But you guys use freaking metal real estate signs. Whose decision was that?
That was mine, actually.
Okay, all right.
We actually used these plastic ones first that I liked. They were big. I mean, they looked like those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had actually seen that before from partner B at that first company. They used those, and the first neighborhood I worked in was, there was 50 roofers in there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you stand out?
Yeah.
Bigger yard signs.
But them things they're not cheap.
They're not cheap, and they're hard. Actually, the harder part is the logistics of it.
Yeah.
Because you got to carry them around, and they're way bigger than they look.
Yeah, and they're taking up a ton of space in the bed of your truck.
Yeah.
And you almost, from an investment standpoint, you gotta go get that back.
Yeah.
Like, you're not, like, we're buying the regular yard signs in such high quantity in bulk. Like,
yeah, you can let those
just
go.
to be honest, I genuinely don't care what happens to it.
Right.
I don't care if the city comes and takes it.
Sure.
I don't care if the homeowner one day decides, dude, I'm just going to throw it. I don't care, But I remember, even before I met you, I was driving by and I was like, that's a metal sign.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would have to come back, and I was with my guys. Like, I would have to come back and get that once I'm done.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be you guys. So I wanted to ask about that decision. But with what I'm looking at, right, is the stressor of being someone
But you remember
who's cheap.
it, right?
Oh, I remember.
That's why. That's why.
That's why you did it. Oh, I definitely
the
remember.
ROI on it was worth it.
I definitely remember it. Now, as a homeowner, I don't know if I would have, said, "Oh, I'm going to use these guys." But as a business owner, I was like, "Oh, that's risky." I mean, I looked at it like a straight business owner. I was like, "That's freaking risky."
Yeah.
My guys don't see that, right? They're like, "Oh, that's cool,"
Right,
but I was like, "Oh, that's risky."
Yeah.
Well,
in the original idea, because they got the rider on the bottom.
Yeah.
It was like 6 by whatever it is.
To put a direct name.
That was the idea. So the idea, I'm big on faces, which is why, because I'm about having it be about people and not just a company, not a faceless company. So, which is why our logo is us.
You guys posted up,
right?
Yeah.
But even the original rider. Now we got rid of this because the logistics were a nightmare. But the original riders had a picture and the name
of the salesperson.
Rep. Yeah. But it was so hard to keep up with that because now you have to have like the exact right amount for the right person, and there's no switching around.
Yeah,
that was tough.
It's tough. Yeah. So one of the things one of the things that I encourage that we do at our business is we pay for the standard sign, right? But it's like you guys have free reign to buy your own slide on with your name and phone number, and it just without doing it as a business, it made the logistics so much easier.
That makes a lot of sense, and that's more the direction we've headed recently, is putting back some of that response. So this is the other thing that got crazy for us is we bought in. One of the things that we bought into right away was this like organization that helps service companies. So they help blow up like Milestone Electric and Baker's Brothers, if you're familiar with them, like huge companies. Now, their model doesn't work as cleanly for roofing and DFW because of the insurance funding aspect.
Okay.
But they're very very rigid on things. Like they want you to have W-2 salespeople. I mean, they're.
Are we talking about like an EOS type thing?
I don't know what EOS
like
is.
a entrepreneur operating system. It's like a people's operating system, right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
So but that really kind of created a lot of confusion at the onset for us, because instead of, okay, hey, we're going to go get contingency contracts and like, go that route, it was, okay, we got to focus on retail. We got to W-2 our salespeople, which is freaking expensive.
Yeah.
All this stuff. And so we did that route, and it ended up distracting. I get caught up in labor laws, and because of the way I am, I'm very worried about lawsuits and stuff. So I'm like digging into this information, and it's a rabbit hole,
Yeah, it's endless.
And then in an industry like ours, where it's totally unregulated, no one plays by the rules, for us to be, we don't just collect deductibles, we upsell.
Yeah.
And in a market like DFW where everyone's, we tried to pitch this community out in Frisco recently. It was like I had 20 people on a Zoom call from this one community. I go through this whole pitch. I tell them all these like amazing things about our company.
And then they say, how much money are you going to give us? Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, I know it.
That's all they cared about.
Yep.
They never got a call back.
Yeah, no, you're not getting a call back.
Like everyone says the same thing. I'm like, no, I know the other company. They don't all say the same thing.
Yeah.
But all they wanted to know was how are we? They wanted free gutters for anyone that had metal exclusions. They wanted no deductible. They wanted class 4.
Yeah.
And someone gave it to them, And I'm like, I don't play that game, man.
No, dude.
So anyway, but playing by the rules, having W-2 salespeople was a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
That really bit us in the ass, because 2019 we pretty much built our branding. What I did was I did what you did for those 2 to 4 months. I did that a lot in 2019 in our first year of sales. Mm-hmm. That was bad because we had like $8,000 a week in cost between me, my partner, our admin, and then this other organization we had to pay for, and other expenses. The insurance is crazy. That's another thing too, is we pay for good insurance, which in our industry is super expensive. If you actually get stuff that covers subs and things.
Yeah, it's more costly than taxes.
Oh yeah. I mean, our just to cover like 3. I think we tell them we're going to do like $3.5 million, then we get audited and have to.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Oh my! Oh man, we went through weird enough. What's today? Sunday. On Friday, we went through our financing from last year just to look at our spending and where we're spending a bunch of money and what we need to do better this year to not spend. And I forgot about it because I just erased it from my mind. But I remember we got audited. And we got a bill. We got a bill for what we had under projected for our revenue, and it was almost 6 figures. I mean, it was.
Oh, wow.
It was. It's a tough blow, right? Like, it's insurance, right? Like, it's not even taxes,
and it's so much more painful because if you didn't use the policy, it's like you got to pay for it after the fact.
And it's crazy because literally we have never, in the existence of our company, I've never filed a claim. I've never had a loss. And to pay it and it's not cheap to pay it every month, and then you get a bill, and I'm telling you, man, the bill was almost 6 figures, and I'm just
wow.
I'm like,
for a GL policy,
yeah,
you guys must be doing more business than us.
Well, then. we under projected. We were very, So this was for 2021. And that was our first full calendar year, right? We started in the middle of 2020. We did more than we could, but than we thought. So it was very tough for us to project that year. It was very challenging.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I mean, first 2-3 years of projections. What are you basing it on?
Yeah, and then more importantly, we had opened a new office. We opened Austin, and so we're San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, Austin full time staff, full time office, and we had opened Austin, I think in April. So when we're doing our projections in December, the end of last week of December to get our policy renewed, we didn't really know. We just kind of, and then it just was, it was tough, man. It was
a painful.
It's a blow.
Phone call.
It's a horrible.
Our first one was like $20,000. $25,000. I think was our first audit.
Yeah,
additional.
Ours was like 85 or like 90 almost, and they gave us a discount. Dude, I can't make this up. They call us and they're like, "Hey, we're going to give you a discount if you pay this in the next like 3 days." And regardless of the time, you got to do it, right? But
Right.
it put so much pressure on deciding if I wanted to renew with them or go with someone else, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
it really.
But
they
it's
did
due
it
to them even if you go with someone.
Yeah,
else.
no matter what. But it's like it was part of the discount was relevant to the
yeah.
renewal.
Oh, I see.
No matter
Yeah,
what,
yeah.
I owe you the money.
Oh, that's no accident.
But they're saying, it's intentional. They're saying if you renew by this date, we'll give you a discount, and they're doing it on purpose. But it's just like, and I remember, Sherman calls me, and it was literally like a Friday at like 3:00, and they're like, we want it
Happy
done by
weekend.
Monday. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
if you do it by Monday, COB Monday. So it's like, I had 3 days, but in all actuality, I had like one.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because you're not, you can talk to some people, but you're not really shopping on a Saturday or Sunday.
Right.
Everybody's like, hey, we'll get back to you. We'll get back to you.
Yeah.
So that Monday was like, oh man, it was tough.
Those are the worst when you're like rushing to get policy bids in.
Yeah.
And you got, we always have two guys that'll audit each other.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, this policy's missing that policy's, and you go through that whole thing. Yeah. I mean, the insurance game, it's whack to homeowners. It's even more whack than business owners. It's just escalated.
Yeah.
Right?
It's different.
So,
man.
but we did that for 2019, 2020. So at the end of 2019, we almost merged with this commercial company that we're friends with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're still tight, but like I spent my November, December, January like trying to work on a merger with these guys. And end of January, one of the owners just, no, we're not going to do this. Like right at the finish line.
They were commercial only?
They were heavy commercial
at
the time. And they were trying to get into residential. We do commercial, but these guys have been doing it for like decades.
Yeah, they were heavy commercial. You guys were heavy residential. It seemed like
we're a pretty good balance, but they definitely they've got some big commercial clients. They know it my partner knows it very well. These guys know it better than anyone else I know.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to do that. Well, end of January, this falls apart. That was my plan for 2020. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh shit, like, I'm a month away from storm season. What do I do now? Mm-hmm. So my partner and I went and we hired 6 guys, and we put them all on draws. Huge mistake. We put them on like
40 jack, huh?
We put them on like $48,000 a year draws. One of them we put on $100,000 a year draw. He had been with a big company
in the industry already.
Yeah, been doing it for like, I think his team did like $8 million the year before, allegedly, right? And so we hire these guys in February of 2020. We train them. We do like office training. We get them out in the field. I'm canvassing with them. We're signing like 7 deals a week within the first. We're up to about 40 a month within the first month. Mm-hmm. March hits, March 2020. COVID,
yep.
Right? And I took it very seriously with my previous health issues, and I'm like, so this was my thing, right? Like, I don't trust the media, but I trust billionaires to protect their assets. And, I live down the street in Victory Park, so I'm walking by American Airlines Center, and I see that clip of Cuban, like, holy shit, when they shut down the whole NBA because one dude got it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if the NBA is willing to lose billions of dollars on this stuff's serious.
It's serious, yeah.
So I was like, look, until we find out more, we're not going to meet in person, right? So we did that, and I made that call. I'm like, you guys still go do your canvassing? That was really sketchy because it was like people didn't want you canvassing. Yeah, it was like,
I was out, and it was it was uncharted. I mean, it wasn't that it was. Obviously, we know what we know now. It wasn't that it was so bad. It's just the confusion was so high.
Yeah.
That it was. I mean, I remember I was out, around that time knocking, and I would come across doors that had a sign that said, "I will not open this door. Do not knock. My door is locked and will not be opened." There were people who, this one dude, hit the window with a gun and was like, "Get away from my house right now! Like, do not breathe near my house." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah."
Yeah, so it was like that. So I'm getting these reports from my guys in the field, and they're like, so, and they were we were trying to get them to not be together when they were canvassing, and the whole culture just died. I mean, we had this great culture right before it, and it just, within weeks, I mean, it died.
Because you can't feed off of other people's energy, and the camaraderie's gone, and now it's
totally gone.
Now you're asking, and here's the problem, right? Now you're asking people on a draw to go out by themselves and push through stuff that's too difficult to push through by yourself, right? Like, it's like, why don't I just go home?
And that's what they did. And they bullshitted us, right?
Yeah.
So my partner and I had to make a decision. We're like, all right, well, we get these guys on draws. what are we going to do, right? Because a lot of them needed it. Most of these guys we pulled in from other industries and trained from scratch. So, like if we drop them in the middle of COVID, these guys don't eat. Their families don't eat. And so we're like, we'll pay for it. So, that wasn't very richly rewarded, but we were trying to do the right thing by them.
Yeah, that was it. That was a stance on your integrity.
It was. And so we did that, and, it was brutal because, I went from being what I consider to be a good leader to being not a good leader. I was trying to protect everybody. It fell apart, man. And so we got frustrated because we had stand-up calls every morning, Google Meets and stuff to touch base. And on one of them, we discovered that the whole team didn't retain some very basic construction knowledge that we had hammered home. So my partner's like, screw this, we're doing a meeting, right? So this is probably, was that March, probably April, maybe May. And our sales have dipped. I think they just started to pick back up because we got a storm. And so we got some stuff popping again. My partner calls this meeting, and I'm like, dude, I'm not going to come just because of my health issues. I still don't know what's going on with this thing yet. I don't know if it's bad or not, but I'll zoom in or whatever. Someone had COVID.
At the meeting?
Whole team got it.
Oh, man.
My partner was out for 3 months.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he got it bad.
And that was your first attempt at a meeting?
First attempt at a meeting. So, yeah, COVID hit us hard, man.
Yeah.
And then I was stuck running the whole company. At the same time, I found out that our accountant hadn't been doing our books. So, I had to get in and try and mess with the books. And I had 3 different accountants telling me 3 different things about how the books should be and all this stuff.
And you didn't have much knowledge of it.
That wasn't my...
Yeah, wasn't your cup of tea.
No. So, I was running the company off my job Nimbus data that I was... And granted, it was actually pretty accurate, but I was using an Excel spreadsheet that I made instead of a QuickBooks P&L.
Yeah.
Because my books weren't up to date, so I couldn't use that.
Yeah.
Anyway, all that being said, that's where all the gray came from, man. Those couple months were brutal.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we lost half the sales staff, or ended up firing most of them because
they're just bleeding.
They were just bleeding. And look, man, if you're going to work, we changed our whole structure. So originally for the draw, they had to perform and produce. We changed that when COVID hit to an action-based instead of a result-based thing, just because we're like, hey, we don't know what we can expect from you.
It was effort qualifying versus performance qualifying.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that was our way of saying, hey, we don't know what you can produce in this, but we'll take care of you as long as you're acting. They stopped everything. Yeah. Right. And so a couple of them stuck it out. October rolls around, and there's 2 or 3 guys still hanging on from that original group. And we're like, but now they're all backwards on their draws. Right? They're deep into their draws and
it's what, 6 months in at this point?
Yeah, at least. Yeah. Maybe 7 or 8, because we're into October, right? So March, April, May, June, July, August.
Yeah, we're 7, 8 in,
Yeah, 8 in. So my partner and I, again, tried to do the right thing, and we said, look, we're going to retroactively convert your draw into a base salary and give you 10% commission on top of your base salary going forward, and including the stuff you sold. So
the accumulated debt turned into essentially income, and then now it's a stable amount plus 10% commission.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which isn't a ton of money for the industry compared to these 50+%.
Yeah, but it was a pivot.
It was a pivot to stabilize them.
Yeah.
And one of them did right by us. The other one, plus our production manager, took about $120,000 worth of jobs that had been through PA and did them on the side. So we found out, fired them, suing them.
Yep.
So, and they were in non-competes and stuff.
Yep.
And so we did that, and then had to start over again in 2021. And 2021 was a pretty good year.
Yeah. So what was it? I mean, when did you guys get back to? It's hard to say that, right? Because it's that 2020 year was so different, and everything was being played different. It didn't really matter the decisions you made.
Yeah.
The field was different. So when did it kind of get back to normal? When did you get back to operating in the way you were operating before?
A couple months into 2021 probably.
And it started to get everything back to going?
Yeah, and it was great because we had we had a multifamily department that was popping. We had a commercial department. My partner's a beast with specialty and commercial stuff. We had a residential. We went and hired a huge team. We went up to like, just in DFW, we had like 23 W-2 employees, right? I had a general manager who had owned his own $5 to $10 million company. We had a sales manager who had run like, big retail operations.
Yeah.
Everything was really pretty good.
Yeah, you had high executives.
We did
Yeah.
until July. So in July of 2021, I went on my first vacation, right? I go to Florida a couple times a year, right?
Okay.
So I go there, and while I'm there, my general manager comes down with Delta, right when Delta picked. I mean, like, I hadn't even heard of Delta until he got it.
Yeah.
But he got it, and then he ended up going in the hospital, and then
Wow.
he went on a incubator or the intubator, whatever it is. Yeah. So, and then he was in there for like 3 months, had a stroke.
Wow.
I mean, he's still not back, and so like everything kind of fell apart right there again.
Yeah.
Because he had been responsible for everything, and then my sales manager quit that week, and like, I mean, it just
all this is while you're on vacation.
Yeah, and then I found out my production manager had been grossly underperforming. So we were running into so we had sold all this stuff. Now all of a sudden we had some production problems. And all of that happened literally within a 2-day period.
Wow.
While I was gone.
Yeah. That's the worst, man. You're like, yo, I haven't taken a vacation yet, man. Can I just get through this one?
Right. Well, and I had also started another company at the time too, because the company was running itself at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing good business, and I mean, I was involved, but I was just a shot caller at that point.
Yeah.
And then it just crumbled. So then I stepped back in. We got our stuff back together, and things got healthy. Because we just scaled down and did it from a healthier perspective.
Yeah.
So instead of a big perspective.
So then the remainder of that year kind of, it was different, right? It was like, instead of the large scale, we're going to get back down and make sure everything's elite and make sure everyone's doing their job correctly.
And that's what we did.
Okay.
And it was a pretty decent end of the year.
And then talk to us about how that became what's going on now.
Yeah. So
What the heck is going on?
Yeah.
now?
Right. Okay. So. There is an NDA, so I can only talk about so much of it, but I can talk about some of it. Okay. So, a buddy of mine who's like this, I don't know consultant, I guess.
Okay.
He does like VC stuff. He does consulting. He's kind of he's big in the tech sphere.
Okay.
So he meets these guys over at this other company that's now called Smart Roof. And he's like, hey, these guys had this crazy product where they could, you know what Roof Hawk is?
Roof Hawk?
Yeah, it's a different company, but they both do kind of the same thing. So they take drone photos, and they can use artificial intelligence to detect hail damage. So they like spit out these AI reports on roof damage.
On the theoretical damage, or on the actual damage that is being found from the photos of that?
No, the actual damage.
So it's not theoretical compilation of storms and effects of weather. It's just this is what's on that roof.
Yeah. So it's using contrast and stuff. I
Okay.
think. So and I don't really know how that tech works.
Yeah. That's people who build that stuff for roofing don't know jack about roofing. They know how to build stuff. They're tech guys.
They are.
Yeah.
And so now one of them had done sales and roofing. So he was like at Penn State. I think he dropped out and went and started roofing and sales and was like, oh, there's so much money here.
Yeah.
And he knows about the tech sphere and tech valuations and all this stuff, which is crazy. If you want to make money, I'm pivoting, right? Because roofing companies aren't worth anything.
Tech is the biggest moneymaker on the planet.
It's crazy.
Period. I mean,
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's no knock or comparison to any other industry. It's just that is a different game. It's
totally different.
It's the only industry where you can go from nothing to a billionaire overnight, outside of the freaking instability of crypto and all that. But when you talk about a legitimate company and a legitimate organization, tech is on a different level.
Completely. And I didn't know that at the time. So my buddy reaches out and he's like, hey, I'm talking to these guys over at this company. You should. And I'm driving. I remember I was on 75. I think I was driving back from the gym or something. And he mentions this company name. And I Google it, I go to their website, I fill out their thing, and I get a message back with like an estimate. I put in my old house because I live in a condo now, but I lived in a house in Cedar Hill, and I put in that address, and they spit back an estimate for me on the house within seconds. I get an email with it, and I'm like, so then I reach out to my tech guy, and I send it to him, and I'm like, hey, I want you to look at this stuff. He does my marketing and tech, and I'm like, Sam, I need you to look at this and tell me if this is proprietary, if they're just like latching on to someone else's software, or what this is. He looks at it, he messages me, he's like, no, I think he's like, it looks all proprietary.
Yeah.
All right, because these are young guys that are doing this stuff.
Yeah.
I said, okay. So then my buddy Matt, who's the one who mentioned this to me, he's like, hey, look, they're looking for a roofing company, and I think you're the guy for it. He goes, Matt, my other, so there's two Matts. My business partner, Matt, he goes, he knows construction better than just about anybody I know. He goes, you have a rare, talking about me, you have a rare understanding of the roofing industry and the operations side and technology. Like, I'm not the tech guy, but like I went to school to communicate to the tech guys.
Yeah.
And I know enough about it to be dangerous and enough about it to design it conceptually and understand what needs to go into the design.
Yeah. Outside of the coding. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So, and he's like, look, you're a rare bird in this industry for that reason, and you've got the right mentality. He goes, I think you guys should chat. So we started chatting in late October of 2021, and I've been working on this deal since, and it just closed mid-April, like yesterday.
Like 3 days, 2 days ago.
Or 2 days ago. What day is it?
Yeah, like 2 days ago.
Which is where the other gray hair came from.
The last 3 months, right?
Yeah, so
there's a lot to this, right? There's a lot to this. The first question I have is, well, all right, I don't even know if I can ask these questions until I understand.
Yeah.
You sold the company?
Yeah. So
to them?
No, so we sold the company to a private equity firm that they're both rolling up underneath that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're the tech company, and then your company, your roofing company, was sold to the private equity company, and they're both kind of merging into that.
Yeah, so the way it's going to be structured is it's going to be like Bearded Brothers Roofing and Restoration powered by Smart Roof. So we're going to use their tech. So now I own a piece of Smart Roof, and I own none of Bearded Brothers directly.
But Smart Roof owns Bearded Brothers.
Yeah, or it will. There's moves that still have to be made there, but yes.
Yeah. But when it's all said and done, take away the logistics, right? Because the logistics are always there's this, that, and
right.
There's
yeah. But when it's all said and done, yes, Smart Roof is over Bearded Brothers.
Okay, and then now you're an owner or partner of Smart Roof.
Correct.
That's huge.
Yeah, man, I'm excited.
What about your partner Matt?
Same thing. So again, loyalty. Like we've always had this agreement that within the industry, we split everything.
We moved together, yeah.
So I made sure he got the exact same deal I got.
Yeah. So how tough was it? Right, your situation's slightly different because it's almost like you've sold it, but you kind of still own it a little bit.
Right.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But walk me through the mentality and the mindset and the challenge of selling your company.
Yeah, so for me it was easy for a couple of reasons. One, I hate risk, and it's a super risky industry. Between the construction side and all that. So I wanted to get some of the risk off my books personally. Mm-hmm. I've been sued too much since we started this over the dumbest shit. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't like it.
Yeah.
So
that's the industry.
It is. And so I don't want to mess with that part of the business. I also don't I love my partner, but I also don't want to be the no guy anymore.
Yeah.
I want to be the yes guy,
yeah.
And I'm tired of just being the only no guy.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a fun hat to wear.
Yeah.
So this puts now there's a board, right?
Yeah,
so I can be the yes and the no guy now.
Yeah.
Right? So that was part of it. The other thing is, without going into the specifics of numbers, we were able to cash out, which puts us in a better he's got a family, right? So it puts him in a much better cash position for his family. It puts me in a better position where I can have some fun. I can do some side investments. But then we get equity in this other company. Mm-hmm. So what's interesting is because this other company is a tech company, the equity that we got, which is about a fifth of what we had previously, is worth as much as the equity we just sold.
Yeah.
Because it's tech.
Yeah.
So we have way less as a percentage, but the dollar number on it is.
But the evaluation of what it's worth is
right.
more.
And then everything we produce, that multiplies.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, and I don't know if it's going to go over a lot of people's head, but I get exactly what you're saying. Is that, you know, what the equity I had in this was higher, but the evaluation is lower.
Yeah. So like, as to be specific on a general level, roofing companies, you're getting like a 1.5 to 3.5x EBITDA, which for those who don't know is like your net profit. Correct. Is the safest way to say that. So, or the easiest. So,
well, tech's EBITDA is typically like 3 to 5, and if it's proprietary and it's something that, especially what it sounds like to me, is ahead of the game, you can get a 10x EBITDA.
You can get 10x revenue.
Yeah.
You can get 10x revenue.
Yeah,
some of them it's not even that. It's literally what anyone will pay for it.
Yeah, yeah.
On some companies. So that, which is the other side of things, is when I first entered the roofing industry, I was like, there's some low-level cats that are playing at a high level in this industry. Mm-hmm. And this was probably a prideful thing on my part, but I was like, I can crush in this industry because of that. Mm-hmm. Right? And what I didn't realize was I underestimated some things. Not necessarily the people, but like what it means to work with those people, right? And it got harder, and it's a much harder journey than I expected it to be. And this is pivoting me into tech, which, like, I'll tell you what, when I roll up in pants like this to a SVG or whatever, I get shit talk. I don't fit in, right? Yeah. And so, like Gucci, like whatever, right? So it's like I don't feel like I fit in the industry anyway. Yeah. So like this allows me to keep that knowledge base, allows me to still influence in that industry, but now I can do it on the tech side, which is more like I just like that. Yeah,
it's more in your enjoyment. So it's like to put that in layman's terms, it's like, I remember I went to SRC, right? And I'm very similar. We're like, listen, I'll do whatever it takes to win, and I'll do whatever it takes to make money. Yeah. But in my innate life, like if we take away work, if I was on a vacation, for example, let's say I did a staycation, like I said, hey guys, I'm not going to work for the next week, and I didn't go anywhere. I'm not wearing those type of clothes. Right. That's just not me. Like I'm not, like Travis, my rep is one of my best friends, and that's what he wears in his regular life. Like he wears boots and he wears jeans and he wears a freaking sleeveless vest, and he looks like he's working. And I'm like, and for me, if you look at my uniform clothes, they're not really in my closet. They're like work clothes. It's not my regular life. Hey, I've got a lifted truck and that's part of my business, but I don't drive that in my regular life. Right. There's just it's not a knock on it. It's just not who I am.
Same. I grew up in New York.
Yeah.
Like no, it's just not. Yeah, not what I do.
Yeah, you're not. You're not a Texas boy, so it's definitely different. And I get exactly what you're saying, because I was walking around, the room in SRC, and you can just, and I don't mean this in an arrogant connotation, but I'm not. If you look at me, and I asked you to guess my industry, you wouldn't guess roofing, right? Because I'm not a white boy, and I'm not, country, and you'd be like, it wouldn't be your first 5 guesses, right? So I get what you mean when I'm saying I'm getting these looks, and people are like, "Yo, who's that dude? What's that dude doing?" Right. So I get that, and I get kind of what you're saying in terms of wanting to get into a place that you kind of fit in. For me, I felt like that black sheep vibe was dope. I do like that, and I enjoy that. And the thing that you're talking about is what I think everyone who sees the industry from third party has to realize, is that there are guys playing at a really high level that are not that high caliber, but they've been doing it so long. Yeah. And you can come in and disrupt, like we both have, right? You can come in and disrupt this industry and become a big dog quick, but you can't go, I've been doing this for 15 years quick. Right. You can't do that. You can't establish those connections quick. You can be better comparably and still lose bids to homie who's been doing this for 30 years. For sure. And there are other industries, especially tech, especially financing, and especially independent services, right? Like if I was a CPA or an attorney, where the comparison has nothing to do with tenure. It has only to do with, a literal face value comparison of this individual or this particular brand or company is better than this one. Right. Right. Like longevity is not really a big factor in a lot of industries. Right. Correct. Like you can make something in tech today that's doing the same thing as a dude who's been doing it for 15 years, and I'll take that more.
Oh yeah.
You know, and
It happens all the time.
I mean, all the time, right? And more importantly, one of the reasons why there's so much money in technology is if you are small and you invent something great, one of the powerhouses is going to buy it from you.
Yep.
One of the powerhouses is going to see that, and before you compete with them, going to buy it for a number that's ridiculous. You know, it's something that they're playing at. You know, it's like I was talking to Rex and someone just bought MailChimp. A big dog just bought MailChimp, and I can't remember who it was, but
it'd have to be.
It was a real big dog, and I think it was Microsoft or don't quote me. I want these guys to Google it, but someone bought MailChimp like 2 months ago. And MailChimp's big, right?
Yeah, huge.
But to get bought, it had to have been big, like huge. And it's just, you invent something that makes sense and then someone wants it, you know?
Yeah. Oh, it's totally different world.
Yeah.
So in any case, like this is nice for me because I still, like I have aspects of the roofing industry I can't stand and aspects that I love. So this allows me to stay in there, but it also allows me to dabble in some other industries. And I get bored, man. Like I want to mix it up a little bit.
You want to diversify.
Yeah, and diversify for sure. So this puts me in the room with VCs and private equity cats and tech and roofing all at once. Yeah,
a lot of people that kind of shift things.
They do.
So a question I have for you, right, is like how in not in the simple way, because we all know the simple way, but in your mind, how does it feel to go from what you knew you were at, as a young guy, coming from New York, drug dealer, to now where you're standing today?
This is crazy.
And let me first say, the reason I asked that question is because when it's happening, it's just happening, right? Not many guys. I'm very similar. I think we're very similar. When you're climbing the mountain, you're not really worried about how far you've come from the ground. You're worried about where you're trying to go. And then there's moments where you accidentally gander off and go, holy shit, I'm really high right now.
Yeah.
Like I really did something. And I know this particular moment had to have been one. How does it feel?
Honestly, it wasn't. It really wasn't.
It wasn't.
No, I still feel like a chump, bro. Just being honest.
No, I appreciate it.
I look down and I'm like, what I look at is I'm like, holy shit, how was I ever that low?
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's still so much to do.
Oh, so much, yeah.
I still feel like a chump. I'm like, damn, I got a long ways to go before I can relax.
Yeah.
But here's what I will say is it does feel like a new lease on life for me. Like I was really 2020 hurt my heart, bro. Like it hurt me. I felt close. Those guys were my family, and I put money out. I mean, I put hundreds of thousands of dollars into their pockets, that was mine.
Yeah.
That was my partner's. That was his family's. It was, and handing that over was painful the way we were treated afterwards. I'll give, but if I give and then I get stabbed in the back, that shit hurts.
Oh, it hurts. It hurts for a long time.
It does. And so I just I lost my joy in the industry. I went from our original mission statement was to revolutionize the storm restoration industry. And my mission statement, I realized this, my functional mission statement 6 months ago was, I just want to put some money in my pocket and live a good life.
Yeah.
It completely changed. And now I'm at a place where I'm back to wanting to revolutionize the industry. And it's the first time I've actually had that mentality since COVID hit.
Yeah, where the passion is back.
It is.
And so, it's different. It's very different. And it's to me, it's a feeling like here's the thing, right? When you're a visionary, and you see things before they're built, and then your mission is just, I want to build this vision I have, and then there are encounters or situations or circumstances or just timelines where you just feel your fire is very dim. It does suck because you're just trying to get to the next week or get to the next month or get to the next manager I'm going to hire or get to the next. I need one more key player to, fill this role I'm doing because I don't want to do this and I want to get back to where I'm at. And then it just becomes very monotonous of survival, right?
Very, very. That's a great way.
And I don't want to make it seem like a negative connotation of survival, like I'm not making it, like not like surviving, like we're barely. I mean, you could even be doing extremely well, but you're just surviving,
right?
You're just getting to the next month,
emotionally, even right.
Yeah,
even if financially, we've still. I tell the ugly story of our history. But we've almost doubled our business every year.
Well, if someone bought you, you're obviously doing well. You're not bleeding.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Obvious.
So, there's still the financial success, but to me, if I'm not making other people successful, if I'm not seeing growth and longevity, like it still feels like a failure, you know. And we started to pick some of that up, but yeah, I mean 2020 just really took a lot out of me. And then I was feeling very, you know, rejuvenated, and then, you know, that July happened.
Yeah.
And again, like that was very healthy though, because what I realized, and this is a good lesson for people listening, was I was too quick to take my hands off the wheel.
Yeah.
I had some high level players, and I was like, cool, they can run this, and they were doing a pretty decent job, but they would have done a much better job, and I would have. The GM I wouldn't have been able to stop that. My sales manager, I could have prevented losing him. Mm-hmm. That was my fault.
Yeah, and I get it, because I've went through the same thing where it's like you're doing well, and then you start to feel that other guys are driving, and then you go, cool, I'm going to get off the car.
Yeah, and and to be fair, he asked me to get out of the car.
Yeah.
He's like, I got this. I want to bless you. Let me do this. I got it. And it was too much for him.
Yeah, but the maturity is realizing that, just, you know, and I went through the same thing where you have to go, nah, dude, like, let me sit in the back seat, but you're not really ready to drive this thing.
Yeah.
You know, and
because I wanted him to drive it.
Oh, yeah, because you want to get out, dude. You want,
cool.
You know, come on now. What business owner doesn't want to not do anything, right? Like, we all do. But it is a tough lesson that I think we all learn the hard way, is that the level of success, and I don't mean financial success, I mean literal executive success, for you to become hands-off is much higher than you initially think.
It is.
Like, you think, when I get these pieces and we get to this level of operating, right? Like, I have key players that are doing everything. What it feels like is when your phone stops ringing, you think, I don't have to do anything anymore.
Yeah.
But this is not the case.
It's not the case.
Because all those people who are doing those things, who are theoretically taking those calls, they're doing it for you, but they really don't know what they're doing. You know,
right.
They're holding down the best way I described it, and I went through it. The best way I described it was, it's like when you put someone in charge for a vacation.
Yeah.
They're not taking initiative of the role. They're just doing what comes up.
Right.
You know, it's like hiring a babysitter to watch your kids. You have one expectation, and that's when you come back, your kid is still alive.
Right.
But you can't come back thinking that your kid's going to be more educated, right? Or your kid's going to be super clean and knows Spanish. Like, nah, dude, they're just keeping your kid alive.
So, and that was the thing for me, and for me, when I was back in retail, the most growth I experienced was when my general manager went on maternity leave for like 3 months, and I had to run the store. I learned so much in that period, and I thought, if I take my hands off and let them, you know, they'll stumble through it, but where I failed to see was that they were at a breaking point.
Yeah.
And so they broke. Like, basically what happened, it was a domino effect. GM gets sick. Sales manager now feels the weight, the additional weight of that. He crumbles. And then I jump in and I look, and like a lot of it was that the production manager wasn't being managed properly.
Yeah.
And so that created all this extra stress for everybody else.
Yeah.
Basically, the GM he's got a big heart and let him get away with too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and what's tough is a lot of times your people in business in general, right? Even if you're not an owner, maybe you're an executive. I mean, a lot of times your people are overwhelmed, but they don't want to tell you they're overwhelmed because they don't want to let you down.
Right.
And they don't want to be a burden.
With this guy.
You know, they just kind of want to get it. They want to hope they got it.
This guy's very much that way. He was super like, I want to do this for you.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like I want to win for you. He's like, I want you to buy your Lambo this year because of the work I do. You know, which, like, shit, who doesn't want to hear that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's my mentality too. So I'm like, okay, kindred spirit. But he just didn't let me know that he was hitting his breaking point, and then it just broke, and then he was gone.
Yeah,
like the next day.
Yeah, it happens fast.
Yeah,
it happens very fast. And I've been there. You know, I've absolutely definitely been there in a very similar situation with. With what we called our chief quality officer, who just was just falling apart right in front of us. And it wasn't until after that we realized how many balls were dropped. and you're just like fuck, dude, I can't believe I let it get here.
I know.
And one of the things that I think people underestimate in business ownership is the level of stress that comes with the small things of your business, right? Like, I was an executive before I owned a company, and when something would go wrong, it would hurt, but it would hurt very face value. It would hurt. Like, for example, if I was an executive, and let's say you were one of my guys, and you ran off on me, it would hurt, but it would be like, all right, let me find another guy. And as an owner, it hurts like 3 levels deeper. Like,
because then they're not leaving the company, they're leaving you.
Yeah, dude, and like again, when I was an executive for a very large company, and I'd lose guys, let guys go, guys would quit, and I didn't know at the time, right? But reverse engineering it, I was like, they just didn't want to work for the company. And I understand that, like, maybe this isn't for everyone. This company's not for everyone. And now when they leave, you're like, fuck, dude, I let you down. And and I don't think people realize how stressful that is, man. Like, I've had more pain mentally over guys I feel should still be with me professionally than I have over, relationships lost.
Oh, yeah.
Like, lose a relationship and it hurts, right? But I have been up just like, fuck, dude, like, it hurts.
I feel it with customers, too. You get a dissatisfied customer and you're like, I didn't even touch them.
Yeah.
But my team did. My name's on that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I lose sleep over that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That's the best way to describe it. Is you definitely lose sleep, and you wake up earlier because of it, and it's just not one of those things you really understand until it happens. Like, you don't think that that's going to be the case, but it's like it's like your child, man. It's like your kid.
Yeah.
It really is a feeling of, and it sounds so cliche saying it out loud, right? But it's like it's a feeling of ownership, obviously. But I mean, like, the real initiative mentally of ownership is I mean, it is an ebb and flow.
It's like being a
emotion.
Parent, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, not that I'm a parent, but that's what I imagine being a parent would be like. Right? It's your baby.
Yeah, yeah, and it
reflects on you.
And that's why it's crazy to me to think that you could sell it. Obviously I get it because everything makes sense to you. But what happens when, like, for me, right? If I buy a car, and you want to borrow it, cool. But when you're driving my car, I'm a little like, you're driving my car. It's a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling where I just don't feel super comfortable with someone else driving my car, let alone your entire business that you built, right? It'd be one thing if you came in and then you got out, but you started it, and now, although you're going to be a part of the upper organization, someone's going to be driving that thing.
Sure. Well, and in this case, I'll be largely the one driving it because I'll be chief operating officer. So
you still get to oversee it.
Yeah. I'm going to be primarily the one, at least for the foreseeable future.
So basically, you just got paid to take on a bigger role.
To take on a different role.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is I got paid to bring on a better team.
Yeah.
Like, I'm working with a lot more high caliber people now.
Which is a dope experience.
It is. I'm excited for it.
Which is a super dope experience. So let me ask you a couple questions, right? And there's one that I ask most people, and I think you and I have very similar innate mentalities. Do you believe that hustle is something that can be taught, or is it something you just have or don't?
Man, that's a tough. I don't know. I'd love to think it could be taught, but I've tried. Yeah. I've tried to instill that in people, and I haven't seen. I think it's maybe the kind of thing that can be extracted from people, but I don't think it's maybe. I don't know if taught's the right word.
Like, you have it or you don't.
Yeah. Now, like, it might not manifest yet.
Yeah. So my belief is very similar. I think you either have it or you don't, but I do think there are people who have it and it lies dormant, and someone can activate it.
Correct.
But I don't think you can get it into someone who doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And for me, for someone who's always had it, and that's why I want to ask you because you're very similar, I've had it since I was a young boy. One of the things I struggle with in my leadership, one of the toughest things I battle in leadership in life, and I have not read a book that's taught me how to fix this or spoke to anyone, I am unable to empathize with lazy people. And I know it sounds really bad to say out loud, but hear me for a second. Like, if I have a guy who's lazy, I don't know how to get you to fucking stop being lazy because I don't understand.
Okay.
I had a guy who's real lazy, right? And I asked this dude, I was like, dude, I'm not picking on you, but just like, help me understand how the fuck you can sit at home for 6 days in a row.
Oh my God.
And I don't mean that like to be a douche, but like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. Dude, remember the ice storm we had, the bad one, not this most recent one, the bad one.
I know.
Okay, so the world was shut down for like 4 days in Dallas, right? Because it was that bad. It was bad. Dude, I went to Tom Thumb every day for 3 days because it was the only thing open, and I was just bored. I was bored. I just needed something to do.
Yeah.
And I've always known I had a motor, but that was when I realized, like, yo, like, I can't just be in this house. I can't just be here. And I just genuinely do not understand how certain people just, hey, what'd you do yesterday? Nothing.
Bro.
Like, I understand if you're not going to work one day because you're busy with other stuff, like I'm running errands.
No, that's not what you're talking about.
But there are certain people who just do nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to coach you. I don't know how to teach. I don't get it.
It's not, I mean, I ask my partner that all the time. Because he's got a lot more empathy for that than I do.
Yeah.
And I'm just like fuck you, honestly. But that's your choice, not mine.
Yeah, it is your choice. But I feel like, for me, similar to what we were talking about before, I do feel, and I shouldn't, but I do feel like bad that I can't get you to be like, and I don't want to sound arrogant, but I want you to be like me. And not like me in a level of success, but I want you to have this motor. And specifically, if I had to really break it down, it's because, I came from nothing, very similar, and I've created, a level of success. And then there's a matter of like, yo, like, you can do this too. And that is on the forefront of my mind. And on the backside of my mind is like, if you just work harder, you can change your whole life. And they're like, oh, I want to change my whole life. But then they don't want to work hard.
Nah, they don't. They want it, but they don't want to. They don't want to do what it takes. So, yeah, I 100% with you on that. It's painful. There's nothing more painful to me than watching wasted potential. Yeah, and that's the hard part for me because a lot of those lazy people have a lot of really
that they don't
good
see,
characters
that you can see. You're like, dude, you can be great.
You could be great. You've got this. You've got that. You got like 90% of what you need. But if you can't fix this one thing, you're going nowhere but down. Yeah. And it happens all the time, and it's one of the most painful things for me, especially managing a sales team. Yeah. Because salespeople are like the worst, right? Like they've got the best, they're great people, right? They have great strengths and great weaknesses. Yeah, yeah. And those weaknesses, bro, I'm like, if you were just consistent. So here's my approach to it, at least in theory. Functionally, I fail on this all the time. In theory, I put out expectations, I put out training, I put out these things. Mm-hmm. I allow people to come into that, and then I have standards, and if those standards aren't met, then they're just not a fit at this time in their life. And I can't control it. Like to me, that's the hard part, because competitive people are also control freaks, mm-hmm. right? Because I want the winning shot, right? Yeah. Give me the ball,
100%,
because I'm comfortable taking this win or lose, right? And that's, if I lose, I want to be the one that loses. I don't want someone else to lose for me.
Yep, 100% me too.
And so like that's the same thing with these guys. Is like, I want to take you there, and I want to control you to the point that you can't lose. Yeah. Because I'm that competitive that your loss feels like I'm losing. Yeah, yeah. And you just, I'm just at a place now where you just got to let it go.
Well, one of the greatest I'm almost freaking the same. And the greatest heartbreak is wanting. It sucks, dude. Especially when you genuinely care about these people. What sucks is when you want them to win more than they do.
All the time.
And you're just like, dude, do this, you're going to win. And they're just, and you're just like, dude, do you not want to win? And they're like, yeah, I want to win. But you know they don't want to win. Right. Not as bad as you want them to win.
Right.
And you're just in this, I don't know what to, I'll be honest and admit right now, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do when I want you to win more than you want to win, and I'm just passionately just like yelling at you to just do this.
Higher, better.
Oh, well, yeah, that's obvious. That's the obvious one, right? But it's like, it's tough to just like, get, because the reality is you're not going to get through to them. You're not. I mean, maybe over a long time.
But you don't necessarily know it.
But the problem is you keep thinking, one more week and then it's going to click.
It's just going to
click. It's going to click. And you keep thinking, the next speech, it's going to click. The next sit down, it's going to click. The next one-on-one, it's going to click. And then all of a sudden, it's been like 6 months, and you're like, I gotta let you go. You
Yeah.
know, and it sucks. It's a crappy feeling to be invested in someone's success, and then just have to really accept the fact that they genuinely don't care.
Yeah.
You know,
It's getting worse too. It's getting so much
especially
worse.
we're in unprecedented territories, right?
Sure.
We've never had people who were on very good unemployment for an entire year. Or
the first dude I laid off during COVID was bragging to the other guys that he was making more money than they were on unemployment.
Yeah,
And I had him on a $48,000 a year draw.
yeah. That's it's unprecedented territories, right? Like even so, I got furloughed when I was an executive. I was an executive for Fitness International LA Fitness, and my unemployment checks were stupid, right? But I was on a 6-figure salary, so my unemployment checks were dumb. But my mentality was like, okay, cool, like I'll just let that deposit in the account, but I need to go find a job. Like I wasn't like it never crossed my mind. Now I can sit at home. Like that never once crossed my mind.
So many people just want to sit at home, and you get that. Like I'm sure you've experienced this in interviews now. I mean, it was bad before, but it's getting worse and worse. Where I sit down and they're like, they want everything, bro.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I want a salary. I'm like, I don't like salaries because they make people lazy. Even good people get made lazy by salaries.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, we can talk about it, but like, it'll probably make you lazy. And then I say stuff like, here's a schedule. Well, can I do it remote? Can I do the, and I'm like, so wait, hang on. You want like a lot of vacation. You want a lot of money. You want to work from home.
Yeah.
You don't really want to have to report to anybody.
They want it all.
They want it all.
And the problem is not that you want it all.
Earn that.
I was just about to say that I'm okay with you wanting it all. I'm not okay with you wanting it all right now.
Yeah.
They want it all right now.
They just want you to give it to. And the problem is, there's so many people that are giving it to.
Yeah.
There's so many companies right now. I had dinner last night with one of my buddies who works for a very large company. He's in the tech space, but he was telling me about one of his family members, and he's like, no shit. He's a tech guy too, his family member, and he goes, he's working for this one company making 6 figures, but he's really only putting in like 15 hours a week. So then he gets a whole second full-time job.
That the first job obviously doesn't know.
He's got 3 of them, bro. 3 full-time jobs making 6. He's making like $500,000 a year.
And none of those jobs know he's got other jobs.
No, my friend literally, he goes, the hardest thing he has to do is make sure his Zoom calls don't conflict.
Yeah.
It's like, so, and good for him.
Yeah.
But it's also like, damn, that's hard to compete with as an employer.
Yeah.
So... What are you going to do?
Again, it's unprecedented territory. I mean, it's just we're in a place of no one knows how to deal with anything. That's just this has never happened. Listen, man. I've read a ton of leadership books and business books, and this has never happened. Mm-hmm. Not at this scale. Mm-mm. This has never happened at this scale ever. And you're literally facing some questions, and people will explain stuff to you. And in your mind, you're trying to, let's just be honest for a second. One of 2 things happens every time you sit at a table. You sell them or they sell you. Uh-huh. And you're trying to sell them, not in a manipulative way, but you're just trying to sell them on the opportunity. And you're hearing them, and you're kind of like, damn, it makes sense to not take. Yeah, it makes sense to go back home, you know?
For sure.
And it just, we're in a place where just, I can't convince you that you in your 6-figure unemployment is a bad idea. Because it's not.
I know.
It's really not.
It's not. Yeah, and that's where the character and principles come into place. Like when my wife and I were on, very low income, never took government assistance, never took anything. And it wasn't that I don't think I was eligible for it. I didn't even look into it. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to, I don't know, man. Different mentality.
Well, for me, I get what you're saying. And it's like, the reason I think it goes that way is because what you said earlier is also me. I want to live or die by my shot.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, if I fail, I'm perfectly fine failing. I just don't want the regret of it being due to someone else or something else. Yep. Like, I'm okay with losing. I'm perfectly fine with losing. But it has to be I lost.
Right.
Not I took a loss due to this or that. I hate... I mean, again, if in that metaphor, dude, if I take the final shot and I miss, it's gonna suck. Don't get me wrong. I'm not smiling, but it does not hurt as bad as someone else missing.
No,
that hurts way worse because everything in me is gonna say I would have made it because I really believe that I would have made it. I believe I was gonna make it when I took it. You know,
it's probably because it's I'm a theory.
Yeah.
It's easier for people like us to be hard on ourselves sometimes than it is to be hard on other people.
100%. And again, I'm hard on people, right? I'm very hard on people because
Sure.
I want to hold people accountable, and I want people to be able to see what we're capable of. But the amount of pressure that is self-induced, it is very unhealthy to someone else.
Right.
It's very healthy to me because I
Same.
understand how I tick. But if somehow one day I decided to take the amount of self-induced pressure and put it on someone,
they break.
oh, they would go crazy. They would go crazy because it's crazy because I was talking to some friends about it. I push, right? Especially in sports, right? Like if we're on a basketball team, right? I'm going to talk crazy to you.
Yeah.
Now, and I hope it's in efforts to win, but I will talk crazy. I'll be like, dude, fucking work harder.
Yeah.
I'll yell out effort is a decision, like fucking dive on the ground. But the shit I say in my head. Oh, it's way worse. You know what I'm saying? It's borderline psychotic, but I'm good with it. Like, right. I love it. I enjoy it. It moves me. So you're very right. That pressure, that expectation of myself is on a completely different level than what I could put out to people.
It's like with the sale of the company. You say, to us, not for me. I still feel like a chump, but I'm not going to go to my partner and be like, "You're a chump, bro." What are you doing?
Yeah.
But to myself, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I got a little breathing room on some stuff, but like that's just an opportunity for me to, plateau. I look at plateaus as like it's a launching ground, right? Mm-hmm. You get to a flat place just so that you've got somewhere to jump from.
You got some space.
Yeah.
Man, that's deep. So let me ask you some questions. So, what's the number one attribute that you innately possess that helped you be successful, and the one that you had to intentionally learn to help you be successful?
I can't quit.
Which one is that? The innate one?
Innate. I won't. I just can't. I can't give up, man. What was the second?
And then what did you choose to learn that really helped you in your business world? Maybe something that you just weren't born with, but you chose to get it.
Yeah, probably a work ethic. So it's weird because it's almost like the same thing. Mm-hmm. But like I always had the determination, but I never knew how to direct that. Right?
Yeah.
Like here's another way to look at this, like on a more intellectual level. When I was in high school, I had low grades. They said I had ADD. They put me on medicine and all this shit. Mm-hmm. I don't mess with that now because I learned how to direct
all the energy,
all of that, and so like what started as just this, what's innate is I will not stop. What I had to learn is like I'm gonna not like that can just manifest as like imploding anger too.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, and that's what it did when I was young. Was like there's this that determination is an energy, and I didn't know how to turn that outward towards productivity.
Yeah.
I turned it inward on. And it was destructive, and I turned it on other people, and it was destructive. And it wasn't until I figured out how to channel that energy in the direction of I'm going to produce something of value.
Yeah,
that's what I had to learn.
Yeah. So for me, I innately have a competitive drive that is good and bad. It's very good because similar to you, I now use it for good. I compete with everything I do.
Yeah.
The thing I had to learn was. And this was a tough lesson that I had to learn, was people see life and each individual situation different than you. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my career, I've tried to get through to people, and they just don't see it the way you see it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. I know it sounds stupid, but I just thought everyone was
like you.
Yeah, man. And it sounds weird to explain, but I thought everyone was like me. And like that, they were just, choosing differently.
Right.
But I didn't realize, like, the best way I described it, and this was one of the things, I had to learn this crap, right? But one that hit me hard, I was watching an interview with Steve Nash, and he was explaining how challenging it is for greats to coach. And he was like, the reason it's very difficult for greats, like great players, to coach is it's hard for them to understand that their people do not see the game the way they see it.
Right.
You know, they're like, just do this. Why don't you get that you can just do this? And they're just like, Coach, I'm trying, but they don't see it the way you see it. They're not. It's not there. And for people where it is there, they just don't realize it's not there for these people.
Right.
And that was an extremely tough lesson for me as a leader. Was like, I would be infuriated and just yelling like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why don't you? And it wasn't until I just started to see like dead faces where I was like, y'all just don't get it. Yeah. Y'all just don't. And, you know, I was like, especially with competition, with the competitive nature, I genuinely, to this day, as I've walked this planet to this very moment, I don't understand how you don't have a competitive nature. I don't know how that feels. I've never felt, you know, prime example, I don't know if I've talked about it on my show or not, but prime example was I joined a rec league with some good friends of mine. Yeah. And we joined the LZ Odom League, which is one of the highest, you know, caliber basketball leagues in the Metroplex. And when I was joining up with my buddy Mello, who played Division I basketball. And at the time, we were in phenomenal shape. I mean, I was probably in the best shape of my life. We were playing ball with Coach Mathis and his development team 5 days a week. So we're talking about we're playing with D1 athletes 5 days a week. So we're like, hey, let's join this league. We grabbed a couple buddies, and we were like, hey, which level do we want to play at? And we were like, hey, let's play at competitive, which is like, you know, I'm good, but I'm not great. And then we were like, nah, fuck it, dude. You and I are getting buckets. Like, let's just play experience, which was like overseas guys, Division I guys about to go. I mean, we're talking about the best guys you can find. So we're like, fuck it. We're playing at that level. Let's just do it. We'll string these guys along, right? That was what we're thinking. Dude, I can't make this up. We were 0-9 in the last game, and these are my friends. Right. And I'm just fucking cussing them out. Like, I want to win so bad, dude. I want to win so bad. And it wasn't until I just saw one of my dudes just not give a shit. And I looked at him and I was like, do you not want to win? And this is exactly what he said. And this hit me so hard as to this lesson. He was like, dude, it's just a game. Like, this isn't my job. Like, we're all going to go back to work tomorrow. Like, why do you want this so bad? And that was when I realized, like, you don't get it. Yeah. I want to win everything. Right. I don't care if this is not my job, dude. I don't care if this is once a week. Like, I want to win so fucking bad. Yeah. And I really thought that they would want to win. Even if you don't want to win the game, I thought you would want to win because you see how bad I want to win. Right. Like, at least for me as a friend, you see how bad I want this, you would want it. And he basically was like, dude, I really don't give a shit. And that's when it started to kind of hit me that, like, certain people just, they don't. Yeah. And I didn't know if I was the one wrong or he was the one wrong, but what I did find out that day was we're different. Yep. That's what I found out that day is because, again, my whole life, dude, and this was me learning, right? This was me growing up and maturing. I thought everyone was my way, but just was like, I don't want to apply that in this particular encounter. I thought they were making a choice.
There's probably some of that sometimes, but there's also
people who are just not competitive at all. Yeah. You will come across people who have zero competitive nature, don't care if they win in anything in life. They're just like, I'm just here just so I, right. You know, and I had a conversation with another friend. I'm like, dude, why did you know, we went 0-10, bro. We went 0-10, and one of my friends was like, dude, that was so much fun. Let's do it again. And I was like, that shit was not fun. That was not fun. And I was like, how was that fun to you? And he was like, and it made sense. This is when I realized maybe I was the one who was different. Sure. He was like, dude, I got to hang out with you guys every week. We got to play a game. We got good exercise in. And theoretically, that made a crap ton of sense. Sure. But it was not fun to me. No. Like, not even 1% fun. No,
I can't. I don't think I've ever experienced that.
Oh, dude, it rocked me. Yeah. It absolutely rocked me. And it was the first time I was forced to face the fact that I'm, like, not in a good or worse way, but I'm different. It's different. We're different. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, I've been trying to process which one of us is wrong. Like, was it you or was it me? You know, which one of us is broken because I'm not the same as you? You
know, it's probably more of in my perspective, more of a live and let live. But, like, and this is, I'm going to say it in a harsh way. Yeah. I don't want to run with losers. Yeah, yeah. And I don't mean like we can't be friends, but like I don't want to play with losers. Yeah. Like I want winners on my team. And that's where I've had that mentality shift a couple of times where, like, because part of me would like to take people who don't. When I say losers, I mean people that like just don't care about winning.
Yeah.
Right. So they're gonna lose because they don't care about winning.
Yeah.
And I just like I can't. Kobe says some of this stuff the best, man. That Mamba mentality stuff. Like he's just a killer. You don't want to.
Yeah, and
around that.
One of the things that, since that point, what I've started to learn, which really helped me in the business world, was realizing I would much rather have a team of guys who suck but want to win than a bunch of guys who are talented but don't care if we win. And I know that sounds super simple, but early in my business maturity, that's not the decision I would have made. I would have thought winning would mean I just need a bunch of really talented guys in anything, right? In the basketball, in the business world, a bunch of talent equals winning. Heck no, man. It's just guys who want to win. Like if you suck, if you don't know how to play ball, like I mean you know how to play, but you're not that good, but you really want to win, dude, I'd rather have you because you're gonna play your role better.
Right.
You're gonna play to your strengths, right?
Get better.
Like in that, and again, I learned this in the freaking rec league, right? And now it applies in the business. But I would rather have dudes who know they suck, and they're just like, I'm gonna get rebounds, and I'll just give the ball to the shooter. But I want to win. I want to compete.
Right.
I'm gonna go out there every day, and I'm gonna compete, and I'm gonna try. Then having a freaking dude who's super talented, and he's just like walking and because that's frustrating. Similar to what we were talking about earlier. I see your potential. I know how good you are, dude. What are you doing? Why aren't you trying? Why aren't you caring? Like,
one of my favorite employees right now is probably one of the least skilled at their role.
Yeah.
But damn, she cares, bro.
Yeah.
She messages me. She does our collections and stuff. We get a bill. Someone makes a payment at 11:30 at night. Boom, I'm getting a text message that minute from her. So-and-so made a payment of this. She doesn't sleep, bro.
Yeah.
She's just like, she's at it.
Yeah.
I call her. She's there. She's on with a smile every day on the call. And I'm like, I'll keep 10 of you.
Yeah. And I learned that, bro. I learned that the hard way was that's how you assemble a championship team. You know, because, you know, again, man, one of the tougher lessons I had to learn too, you know, was and this was tough for me. I didn't learn this until I was taught this. Not everyone can be a star player. And certain people are made to be role players.
Yep.
And I always thought, you know, similar, man. From a naive standpoint, I thought you wanted a bunch of scorers. A bunch of scorers were winners. But there are guys who are role players, and more importantly, they are willing to embrace and master their role.
Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to be a team captain. I want to be a corner shooter, and I'm going to do that the best. I'm going to be the best corner shooter on this team. And that's really what it takes to assemble a championship team.
It is.
You know, because star players all have egos, and it's hard to put too many egos in one room.
My team, and this a long time ago, when I was really good at basketball in like 7th grade, right? And this is like this is mid-late 90s,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So it's not like today where, you know, the 5'6" white dudes dunking from the three-point line, you know. It's not like that back then. But we had 7 guys in 7th grade that could dunk. I mean, we were the most talented team on the Eastern Seaboard. These guys were nuts. And we lost a lot, bro. I'm talking, these guys were so – every single one of these guys could have gone pro.
Yeah.
I mean, but we lost all the time. It was a me thing. There were no role players.
It's got to mesh, and those are lessons I learned. So it's dope to know you've learned how to channel what you innately have and your innate mentality. You know, a couple rapid fires before we close. So if business was not relevant, you know, and it's a tough question, but you got to think about it. If no business was relevant, you didn't have any businesses, and I said, what industry would you want to be in and
Film.
why? Film.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm planning on making that move at some point.
Why would you? Why?
I grew up around theater. I grew up around movies. I love the artistic, creative nature of it. I'm a writer. I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
So
You answered that quick.
yeah, it's on the docket.
It's on the list. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dope. Okay. So, what person on this planet, you know, or was on this planet, influenced the way you are the most?
Man, You know, I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to give you two very divergent answers.
Okay.
DMX and Jesus.
Okay. They're polar opposites.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like when I grew up in, and I watched, like, I was big in like Sopranos and Godfather and like that Italian gangster thing. Then when I got into basketball, I started playing with like inner city kids.
Mm-hmm.
First rap album I got was "It's Dark and Hell Is Hot," and I still have the whole thing memorized, man. So like and it's interesting enough because I don't know what it was, but the poetry or something about it,
Mm-hmm.
the struggle.
Yeah.
I was a young kid. My sister's Dominican, but looks kind of, she looks black, whatever. But I don't know if something in me as a kid wanted to connect. I don't know what it was, man, but it touched me.
Yeah.
And that stuff, like, it became a big part of who I was, even the code,
Yeah.
all that stuff. It really, so that, and then I'll say, the reason I say Jesus is because, I was one way before that stuff happened. And even though I don't live like a very churchy life, I wouldn't even tell people I was a Christian now because I don't want my lifestyle to cause anyone to be led astray or whatever. I just don't, that's something I'm not interested in presenting myself as for that reason. But there's things about me that are totally different since I, had that change.
Yeah, yeah. So it was big adjustments in kind of how you moved.
Yeah.
Okay, and then early on, or maybe even now, I think most people looking to be great in whatever they do, until you find yourself, and everyone finds themselves differently. Some people find it early, later. Some people still haven't found and unlocked who they're going to be. I think there's a natural place filler of, I don't want to use the word idol because it's more of a, it gives it a little too much credit, but I like to say maybe there's someone that they emulate or someone that they see as someone that motivates them or fuels them or pushes them to be great. Someone who maybe you watch and you go, okay, now I see how I should be moving. Did you ever have an individual like that in your life?
No.
No one that you just looked up to that way?
I guess in a way, actually, now that I think about it, maybe my best friend in high school, maybe his dad a little bit.
Okay.
So my parents, they worked their way up in their careers,
Mm-hmm.
but they always worked for someone else. My buddy's parents, like his dad, the dude had businesses. He had cars, like he owned that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a whole different way of looking at things, and that. Yeah, maybe that when I was younger. But
Yeah.
I never really, that's actually one of the things I'm most excited about with this acquisition situation is there's a couple of guys in there that are very high level in the private equity and VC world that I'm very interested in. I've never really had a mentor.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested in, being able to receive from someone. That's one of the things I probably failed at most in life is not forcing myself to be around people that have had greater success than I have.
Yeah, which is
I end up pulling people up a lot, and
Yeah.
I don't get pulled up a lot.
well, I fell victim to that. Fortunately, so I say this. Fortunately, at a very young age, I was given a mentor. And he has been one of the strongest inspirations to me. But he's also been the most critical of me, which has all been very necessary.
Yeah.
Very, very necessary. And for me, coming up in the world as a child, and then my upbringing was very alone. I was very alone, and I always felt the mentality that I can do it. I can do it by myself. I don't need anyone's help. And this was the first time in life where someone was basically just stopping me in my tracks and going, "No, not going to work. You can't pass this and that." And it's uncomfortable, man. It sucks. It sucks. But you know that it's all to better you and to mold you and to shape you. And he keeps chipping away at the problems. And it's so freaking necessary. And it's such a blessing that I definitely took for granted the early stages of my life. But now I look back and I'm like, wow, that was so incredible because I got such a head start. And I still have this mentor in my life, every day. And I speak to him and conversations are equally still as tough because he equally still holds me accountable to what I expect of myself, but more importantly, with a level of similar to what you're saying, a level of wisdom that he's already done this and been there.
Yep.
And ever since getting that privilege, I've got rules now where I don't join groups, and similar to you, my success came from educational background, right? I wanted to be the smartest guy, and I was willing to work for it. I was willing to put in the work in the studies. I was willing to learn my craft. Like, it wasn't just, I had a lot of raw talent, but I wasn't going to survive off raw talent. Mm-hmm. I was always going to build off my raw talent. So unintentionally, I would always find myself being the smartest guy in the room or the best natural leader. I would join groups, and I would blink, and all of a sudden I'm in charge. And it's a gift and a curse, but I command rooms, and I think you do the same thing. You command a room. Your presence is noticed when you walk in, and it's also noticed when you leave. Yeah. So now I have this rule where I won't join groups. I was getting interviewed, and it was a long, extensive process to get into KBL, Kingdom Business Leaders, and the group leader Santiago calls me, and I says, I'm not going to join this group if I'm the smartest guy in here. And I said, I don't want to sound arrogant, but if I'm the smartest guy, I don't want to join. I want to walk in there and there be someone smarter than me that I could just like listen and hear the way he, because we debate a lot of things. And I joined the group, and there was this dude in there. It was like a freaking super computer genius who like buys these companies, and he buys like freaking 12 companies a year, and then he just like merges them into his big company. And he's like talking to me about this crap, and I didn't know jack shit about what he was talking about. And it was an awesome feeling. It was like it's diminishing in such a positive way because it similar to what we're talking about with the mountain. It just gives you this real feeling of like I've got more to go. Like I'm not. And when the problem I felt is, especially hanging out with people my age, is I was the most successful one. Everyone around me was lesser than me and was looking towards me for leadership. That the amount, and I knew in that moment, the amount I have is all I'm going to have in this particular situation. Because none of you are giving me anything.
Right.
Y'all are taking, and that's cool because you can come with me, but I need someone to give me something.
Right.
Because where I'm at is not enough, and I'm not going to get anywhere else without more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And it takes that much longer if you got to figure out where each...
Yeah. If you have to build it by yourself, it's a lot of trial and error.
A lot.
And that takes 15 times longer than someone going, you're wrong.
Yes.
And let me tell you why.
Super expensive.
Yeah.
Time and money. All resources get wasted in the trial and error.
For sure.
I said that when we were being bought out. I was like, we did a certain amount of money and like we had a certain amount of net profit. I'm like, just so you know, this net profit isn't real. Like it's way higher than this, but we dumped all of our money into R&D. Yeah. It's all R&D, trial and error.
Yep. No, I get it. Okay, so rapid fire. You ready? Hot or cold? If you're talking about living somewhere.
Hot.
Okay. What's your favorite food on the planet?
That's tough. Maybe pizza.
Pizza. That was an easy one. You didn't seem that tough. All right. If you could go anywhere for a month, money's not a problem, where would it be?
Somewhere warm.
Pick a spot.
I don't know. I guess I'd like to try out Fiji, I guess.
Fiji?
Yeah.
That's the spot you're picking?
I don't know. I'd have to do some research, honestly.
There's nowhere you've just been like, I would love to go there. All right. Okay.
I'm a little bit of a homebody, man. I'm so focused. It's like travel distracts me sometimes.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay. What's your average time to bed?
Probably between 11 and midnight.
Okay. And then your average time waking up?
5 and 6.
What do you do that early?
So I'm a little streaky, in transparency. When I'm on my shit, though, like I've got a regiment. So like I'm up, I'm hitting my workout in, I'm hitting a cold shower, I'm reading a little something, trying to do some like breathing exercises, cleaning, make sure my spot's all clean. When I'm off, man, sometimes I'll get up and I'll like play chess. I'll get up and I'll play chess on my phone.
Yeah.
It distracts me.
Favorite book?
Probably conceptually, maybe 4 Hour Work Week. Okay. Overall, I mean, the Bible's been the most impactful, I'd say. But
yeah, of course. No, that's good. And then Your number one beverage, favorite beverage. It could be alcoholic, non-alcoholic, just favorite beverage.
Water.
Really?
I love water.
Dude, I hate water.
Really?
And
Yeah.
I wish I loved water because obviously it's good.
I drink so much water.
Oh, I hate it. I'm battling it. I want to drink water, but it's freaking nasty, so I have to keep putting these like water enhancers and
See, and I can't do that. I can't do like the flavors.
Yeah.
I need like just
regular water. I wish I envy people like that, man.
It's like life to me. Yeah.
I envy people like that because I know how much benefit it gives, and I know for a fact I'm dehydrated 99% of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, final question. What is the thing, in your opinion, that can help someone really elevate their life? What is that thing that they need to either know, learn, or understand?
Consistent action. Yeah. Have a plan and then stick to it. I think people bounce around too much.
But how do you know? I mean, there's got to be is there a way, like, what if I'm doing something? Because here's the reason. People bounce around because their mindset goes, maybe this isn't it.
They're quitting too soon.
Well, how do you know when?
Don't quit. Go until you're successful. All right, here's what I'd say. There's a series of books by Robert Greene. I don't know if you know him. But He has some pretty good stuff. But he has one called Mastery, and I like what he says in there. He talks about how you pick something you love, apprentice at it until you become an expert, and then you can go do it yourself.
Yeah.
Start with something you love and just go. And don't stop. Don't doubt yourself. Don't question. But people, I think we're so impatient. We're so entitled. And I'm guilty as shit of this. It's like I do something because I end up chasing money instead of passion. Right? And that's probably one of my biggest failures is I'm like, well, I'm going to go do this because there's an opportunity here. But when am I going to stop and do something that I love? That's why it was so quick for me to answer film.
Yeah.
So now, if you had asked me 15 years ago, I would have said MBA. You know, now I think I'm finally at a place in my life where I'm like, you know, no matter what I do, that ain't happening.
Yeah.
Right. So, but you know, film's still something I can do. So, like for me, I've got a game plan, and in 3 years, that's where I'm about to go. Because
now you've learned and realized you want to get to where your passion's at. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, and it's a tough lesson that kind of happens whether you want it or not, because you either make the decision and go after it, or find yourself attaining what you set out and realizing you're still missing something.
Yeah, people get so manic. I had a guy who was working for me, and he was doing so well, and all of a sudden he's like, Chris, he's like, I want to go to SMU Law. And I'm like, you sure? You know? He's like, I want to start a nonprofit. I want to do Forex. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I'm like, bro, you're going to fail at all those things. Not because you can't do every single one of them, but you can't do all of them at the same time.
Yeah. Well, you know what it really is it's the day and age we live in where we're exposed to people's final product. And everyone thinks, and I'm a victim of it as well. Everyone thinks that I am as good as you, or I'm comparable to you, and I'm in the same caliber as you. So if I do that, I'll derive what you have. But they're not taking into account, although I may be as good as you, I haven't put in enough to get that.
Right.
I haven't worked at what I'm trying to do enough to attain what you have.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at your final product. You know, if I see a guy who, you know, is successful and owns 6-7 car lots, I'm like, dude, I'm equally as smart as you, right? In this metaphor, I'm just as smart as you. I work just as hard as you. I'm gonna go buy a car lot, and then all of a sudden it's not doing well, and you're like, what the fuck? Well, I don't know how long it took for that to happen, and more importantly, because I'm so competitive and I want it so bad, I think it should happen right now.
Right.
In certain things, it's a process, and you have to fall in love with the process.
Yep.
Because you can't escape the process.
Which is where the passion comes in, I think, is like if you're doing something for the wrong reasons, then you're in a place where you're going to end up you're going to hit burnout.
Yeah.
Right? But if you actually have passion for it, then the passion sustains you through the process.
Yeah. The passion will keep you going even during the tough times.
Exactly.
Versus having to make the decision that I need to get to the next time. You're automatically going to enjoy it, and you're going to love that process.
Yep.
Man, good stuff, man. So we appreciate all you guys for joining. We appreciate you for teaching us this evening.